5 seconds. Mics are hot, house audio is on. Watch it. You're live.
Should be in Drury Square.
Thank you. So we are coming back from our site visit.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we move item 5A and B up to before item C, 3, before number 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second, but can I just make an amendment that we put 5B before 5A, just so that we can get the Eagle Scout family dealt with, and then that way they don't have to stay for the rest of our meeting? Unless you want to, of course.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. So we're going to start with 5B. Did you want to come sit up here? Tell us about your project. Yeah. Can you just introduce yourself as well, your name?
Introduce yourself.
My name is Robert Ela. I am a scout of Troop 53, and I'm here today to propose my Eagle project that will benefit the town of Auburn.
Sure.
All right, if you were to please flip the page. So this is the current sign that I would like to replace. It's outside the library, and it will benefit the community because it will continue to perform its intended purpose while becoming a better and well-known welcome marquee for the town. It will make the area look cleaner and more modern since the sign will be brand new, and it would also promote Scouting America, which in turn would encourage more Eagle projects that could benefit the town. Here is a view of the sign across from the Dunkin' Donuts. And if you were to look at the picture, you'll see a little yellow circle highlighting the sign. From this picture, you can't see or make out any of the words or pictures that are currently on the sign, and nothing is prominent. And so here are some examples of town welcome signs from in and outside of Mass. On these signs, they incorporate their town logos, slogans, and their years of establishment. And I want to incorporate these qualities of these signs into the new sign that I'll make. And this is a great opportunity to utilize the motion of the sign with an updated modern version. And also, if you were to look at the sign from Newport, on it says, "Welcome to Newport." The city of Newport, Rhode Island, it has the year of establishment, and it has some other information on the bottom. The current sign that I want to replace has a bunch of nonprofits that are advertised on there, and the Welcome to Auburn portion is very small compared to the rest of the sign, and I would like to basically reverse that by making the Welcome to Auburn bit a lot larger, and to add like the town seal, welcome to the town of Auburn, established 1837, and any other things that the town would want, and home of the Rockets and other things. And then on the bottom, Auburn's a very unique town because it was the first liquid fuel rocket, and other historic things have happened here. And I would like to maybe put something on the bottom of the sign if the town would like to replace the nonprofits with something about Dr. Robert Goddard and how he launched the first liquid fuel rocket here. And so I've already talked about most of the plan itself, but this entire project has to be led by myself, and the labor will be provided by my fellow scouts, scoutmasters, and/or volunteer workers. The project also needs to be funded by donations, so nobody can pay for it out of pocket. But currently, the final design is a work in progress, which will be submitted when it's done. So first, this is another picture of the current sign, and as you can see, it's a lot larger in the nonprofit advertisements, and the Welcome to Auburn part is very small on the top, so it's hard to see from a moving car, which is what most people would see it. So I would like to make the Welcome to Auburn portion a lot larger and minimize the nonprofits, or again, like I said, fully replace them with something about Dr. Robert Goddard, something just to make something about the signs special, specifically to Auburn. But if not, and the town would more like to have the nonprofits, I've highlighted the signs in parts of what my father, and some of the scouts people have gone and looked over the sign, and so the parts that I have highlighted in red on the picture need to be fully replaced due to wear and tear, and they're just not able to be saved. The blue parts that I've highlighted, which is the nonprofit advertisements and the sign on the top, needs to be fully changed and redesigned so that you can actually see it, and just to make the sign look nicer. And the yellow parts is what could be replaced, but it could also be saved, because the main structure of the sign is in decent condition, and that could just be resanded, repainted, or stained, and could still serve its purpose. And so in conclusion, this will be a very fine addition if approved to the town, and it'll just make the town a little bit more beautiful than it already is. Thank you.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions?
So I know you've done a lot of work on this, thank you. Was there, or is there any consideration to turn the sign a little bit? I know that intersection, it's a Welcome to Auburn sign if you were coming off the highway. That's probably the most visible. Other than that, the traffic's already in town, so I don't know if there's been consideration to changing the angle of the sign.
If changing the angle of the sign would make it more visible for the cars passing by, but how it's faced right now, it's facing so you can see it coming, the intersection, so you see it coming this way, but you can still see it if you're coming the other way. But if you were to angle it, it would make it harder for seeing these two ways. Yeah, and also if we were to move it, we'd have to replace the structure, and that would cost a lot more, and it would make the construction a lot harder.
Thank you.
Where do you?
Very creative idea. Thank you for coming up with it. It's long overdue by your description. The only recommendation I would have is talk to the Cultural Council and see for ideas, that they may want to, and I would also loop in the chamber just to see what ideas they might have, they might be a source of revenue or donations for you, so it's always good to, and they have a pretty good beat on the town, both organizations. And then the only other thing is we were established in 1778, so we did change the name in 1837, but I just don't want the sign someone to criticize you because of the sign would have the incorrect thing. But I think it's great. Obviously, I would like, interaction with the manager's office and the various people that I recommended, and hopefully we can get it done. So thank you.
Madam Chair, through you. So thank you for taking on this project. Couple things. One, I drive by here regularly. My wife is the vice chair of the Library Board of Trustees, so I'm at the library too many times. And I didn't even notice the sign was there. That's how of a disservice it is not only to the town of Auburn, but also to these great community group organizations that are supposedly advertising there. So I think a new sign similar to the ones you've shown would be great in terms of, really showcasing that this is the town of Auburn, to draw the attention to it. So thank you for that. What I would ask on the town side is that if we can take care and custody of these plaques that are here for these organizations, which are very important to the fabric of the community, and then see if there's another location in order to advertise, them prominently. But I don't think this is the right location. I think the sign that you're proposing is much better for this location. So thank you for that. I also do like the tie-in to Dr. Goddard. Not only is it near Goddard Park, but 2026 is the 100-year anniversary of the rocket launch, so this would actually be a nice way for the community, one of the ways for the community to honor and recognize that historic fact. So thank you.
Question, this is a very good idea for the project. Who approves the final design?
So I have a large process that every candidate for the Eagle project has to go through the plan, proposal, and then once I write all that up, it's a lot of paperwork, and then I have to send that into my council and the committee, and they have to go through it. They need to make sure everything is in order and there's no mistakes, and all the required information is there, and they can either then approve it to me or say that I need to add or remove something, and it's a long process that takes months.
Yep.
But once it's done and they approve it, I can start actually working. So if I get the selectmen's approval tonight, that's the first step. Then I can send it in for the council and the committee's approval. Once they get back to me, if they approve it, then I can actually start the construction of the sign.
My only caveat might be, once you do get the final design after they've approved it, just run it by our town manager's office, just to make sure it's going to be good verbiage. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this. This is a wonderful project for you. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we, oh, sorry, Ann, go ahead. You were going to do it.
Yeah, make a motion that we approve this Eagle Scout project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are moving to 5A. We have Senator Moore and Representative Frost here for some general information on 40B. Would you gentlemen like to come up? Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what I had my office do was prepare a summary of basically what 40B is, the 40B process, the town's authority, state authority, what a municipality can deny a permit for, safe harbors, then some Auburn delegation actions relative to 40B. That would be my Representative Frost and I, what we've tried to attempt. Okay. So thank you for having us here. So basically what Chapter 40B is, Chapter 40B, or the Comprehensive Permit Law, is a state law that was enacted in 1969 to help communities meet the state's housing needs. Chapter 40B facilitates the construction of low or moderate income housing. It establishes a consolidated local review and approval process known as a comprehensive permit that empowers the Zoning Board of Appeals, the ZBA, in each city and town to hold hearings and make binding decisions that encompass all local ordinances or bylaws and regulations. Comprehensive permits issued under Chapter 40B allow for streamlined approvals of mixed-income rental and homeownership housing. Chapter 40B promotes regional planning solutions and new housing consistent with local and regional planning needs. The law balances the regional need for affordable housing development with local public health, public safety, design, and environmental welfare. Chapter 40B does not allow developers to override state and federal statutes and regulations, including state and federal environmental protections. 40B does allow a developer to override local restrictions that are more stringent than state requirements. State regulations like building codes remain in place. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. If a town or city has under 10% affordable housing, a developer can work with one of the 4 agencies known as a subsidizing agency, which is the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, Mass Housing Partnership, Mass Development, or Mass Housing, to override local zoning as long as the developer proposes 20 to 25% affordable units. 40B doesn't have a single application. Prior to applying for a comprehensive permit, a proposal to build affordable housing must receive preliminary approval, typically through a project eligibility letter, so a PEL, or site approval letter from a state or federal subsidy program. A developer would need to reach out to one of the 4 agencies to see which one would offer the most appropriate financing. Before a PEL is issued, the town has 30 days to provide public comment. The application containing the eligibility letter and preliminary development plans is then filed with the local zoning board of appeals. The board then notifies and seeks recommendations from other local boards. The zoning board of appeals holds a public hearing and can accept public testimony to ensure that local concerns are properly addressed. In making its decision, the board acts on behalf of all other town boards and officials. The local zoning board of appeals is responsible for approving affordable housing developments under Chapter 40B. The board can issue a single comprehensive permit. They can also issue a comprehensive permit with conditions or deny the permit. If a comprehensive permit is granted, the applicant, prior to construction, must normally present final detailed construction plans to the building inspector or similar officials to ensure that the plans are consistent with the comprehensive permit and state requirements. If a prospective 40B development is rejected or approved by the ZBA, a developer or municipality can appeal the decision to the Housing Assistant Corporation, which is an impartial forum to resolve conflicts. A Hague HAC ruling can then be appealed to the Superior Court. The town's authority. The town is provided 30 days to make public comment. Once the development plan is filed with the local ZBA, the board then notifies and seeks recommendations from other local boards. The ZBA holds a public hearing and can accept public testimony to ensure that the local concerns are properly addressed. In making its decision, the board, the ZBA, acts on behalf of all other town boards and officials. The local ZBA is responsible for affordable housing development under Chapter 40B. Cities and towns that achieve a minimum housing affordability threshold of 10% may reject 40B comprehensive permit applications without facing an appeal from the developer, giving such cities and towns great discretion over 40B proposals. The town also has the authority to hire a consultant to assist with the 40B process. This may be beneficial for the town and prospective developers as they can provide expertise in navigating the complex 40B comprehensive permit process, ensures compliance, and maximizes the chances of project success. The state authority works with the developer as their subsidizing agency as long as the development plan contains 20 to 25% of the units strictly for affordable housing, provides the project eligibility letter to the developer ahead of applying for the permit through the local ZBA, approve the town's housing production plan on Approve the town's housing production plan on July 9th, 2024, Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. What a municipality can deny a permit for. A town can deny a 40B for local health, safety, environmental, design, open space, or planning local concerns that outweigh regional housing needs. Prior to denying a comprehensive permit application, the ZBA should consult with its town council and other advisors to assess the validity and strength of its arguments for denial, given the applicant's likely appeal of the denial to the Housing Appeals Committee. The town can deny a comprehensive permit if the town meets one of the statutory minima or another safe harbor under Chapter 40B regulations. Safe harbor refers to when a ZBA's decision to deny a comprehensive permit will qualify as consistent with local needs and not be overturned by the HAC, provided the conditions were met prior to the date that the comprehensive permit was filed with the ZBA. To invoke safe harbor, community must follow the procedure listed in 760 CMR, Code of Massachusetts Regulations, 56.03, subparagraph 8. Within 15 days of opening the hearing, the board must provide written notice to the applicant with a copy to DHCD describing which safe harbor has been achieved with supportive documentation. The applicant has 15 days to challenge the board's assertion with corresponding supportive documentation. Copies of all materials sent to the ZBA in the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Housing and Livable Communities has 30 days to issue a ruling upon a receipt of all materials. Failure to act by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities within 30 days results in the municipality's favor. During EOCHC review of safe harbors, the hearing shall toll the requirement to terminate the hearing within 180 days. Either board or applicant can file an interlocutory appeal within 20 days of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities ruling. Safe harbor must be achieved before the comprehensive permit filing date. Safe harbors. Safe harbors statutory minima. The number of low or moderate income housing units in the city or town is more than 10% the total number of housing units reported in the most recent federal census. Low or moderate income housing exists on sites comprising 1.5% or more of the community's total land area zoned for residential, commercial, or industrial use. The comprehensive permit before the ZBA will lead to construction of low or moderate income housing on sites comprising more than 0.3 of 1% of the community's total land area zoned for residential, commercial, or industrial, or 10 acres, whichever is larger, in one calendar year. Additional safe harbor created by regulation, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities has certified that the community complies with its affordable housing production goal under its approved housing production plan. The community has met the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities' recent progress threshold, meaning that within the last 12 months, the community has created new subsidized housing inventory, units equal to or greater than 2% of the total year-round housing units reported in the most recent federal census. The progress threshold can be helpful to a community that does not have a DHCD-approved housing production plan. The project before the ZBA is a project that exceeds the DHCD's definition of a large project under 760 CMR 56.03, subsection 1, subsection D, where the definition of large project varies by the size of the municipality. In a community with 7,500 or more year-round housing units, a comprehensive permit application for more than 300 housing units or a number of units equal to 2% of the community's total units, whichever is greater. In a community with 5,001 to 7,499 year-round units, a comprehensive permit application to build more than 250 housing units. In a municipality with 2,500 to 5,000 year-round housing units, a comprehensive permit application to build more than 200 units. In a town with less than 2,500 year-round housing units, a comprehensive application to build a number of units equal to 6% of all housing units in the municipality. For an example, in a community with 2,000 year-round units, a large project would be 120 units. The community received another application to develop the same site within the previous 12 months. The developer sought a special permit for the subdivision approval for a non-residential project and market rate housing at the same site. So some of the actions the Auburn delegation, so myself or Representative Frost, while no one or board in my Senate district has formally requested a legislative change to 40B in the process, I am based on some discussions we've had with the town officials, we are looking at a possible change that we can try to make in the upcoming legislative session to try to help the town of Auburn with what you're facing. With 40B housing towards the municipality's 10% housing requirement. All right, so what we're looking at is, right now, we want to make a change legislatively where 40B housing towards a municipality's 10% requirement when the certificate of occupancy is issued, rather issued to when the building permit is issued. So this way, we understand now that you've got multiple housing projects, 40B projects. By the time they're completed, you'll have well over the 10 to 15%. So we're looking at we're going to look at language to try to make it where we'll be able to address the approval upon the building permit. So once that one project is that building, you've received the building permit, the other ones would be over your the 10% benchmark and give you more greater control on how you can address those 40B projects. So the change will address the ongoing issue of 40B development projects continuing to be approved to meet the town's 10% threshold requirement, when in reality that has already been met. In Massachusetts, some mobile homes can be considered affordable housing under Chapter 40B if they are part of a development that includes long-term affordability restrictions, meets the housing production plan, and meets the state's definition of affordable housing, such as a mobile home park. And I know I have done for the town of Shrewsbury previously. They were looking at, they have a mobile homes that they wanted to count into their 40B plan, and we could not do that. We could not move that through the legislature. There was no support. More than happy to try again, but again, I don't see that going anywhere, especially where there already is a way for a city or town to try to accomplish this. And I know Representative Frost has tried in his way, which I'll let him cover that. Also, in the most recent housing bond bill, I was able to secure a $1 million authorization for local infrastructure upgrades supporting housing development, and I did that for each one of my communities. So we have the bonding authorization with, I guess, approval of the town or the town manager. We're more than happy to go sit with the administration and try to get a release of that money to help you with additional costs. But as you know, with a bond, we got the bonding authorization approved. Now we have to get the administration to release the money. This bonding could be authorized to provide funds for sewer, septic, water, stormwater management, roads, sidewalks, traffic controls, and public safety infrastructure upgrades that support housing development, preservation, or rehabilitation for Auburn. Additionally, the town has the option to file a home rule petition to amend Chapter 40B requirements for Auburn as well. However, a home rule petition to amend Chapter B for a municipality has not been done prior, meaning it may not be approved by the state. Nonetheless, I am happy to support Auburn any way I can and would be happy to talk to the relevant agencies to begin any further discussions. And I'll now turn it over to Representative Frost.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to the board, and to those here tonight, and other Auburn residents who may be watching online or on cable access. I want to thank Senator Moore for the very comprehensive review. We know most of you folks here on the board already understand the process, but as we're sharing this back and forth for other folks who are watching and are maybe, finding out that they have 40B project going on in their neighborhood. It helps to go over this, and of course, certainly I've taken phone calls. I'm sure the senator's taken phone calls anytime these happen, and people just trying to want to understand the process. And I would just say that, I know the senator mentioned it, even this past summer, we did a housing bond bill. I did an amendment trying to count mobile home parks towards the 10% threshold, and it was soundly defeated because I was told that it was just an end around 40B. It was just trying to find a loophole. And I disagreed with that and was very upset by that, because these mobile home parks, though have been in Auburn for a very long period of time, were created for the very purpose of providing affordable housing for individuals and families. In fact, the history of them goes back to the end of World War II to give our soldiers an affordable place to live. So by very definition of their creation was affordability, and therefore should count towards Auburn or any other Shrewsbury or any other communities 10%. But I think that gets to the crux of things, where it has been frustrating to make changes or amending 40B in the sense of there are, especially urban legislators, as well as others, who believe that these are just ways for communities to get around it and not look at the challenges that they actually create for those communities. Some communities are already over 10%, so they don't get the pressure from their constituents to want to address it. You have mandates in this administration, even the prior administration, that have wanted more housing. And they don't want to support anything that could create less housing or take it longer to build it. And again, the things that need to make sense. And when you're trying to fit, a square peg in a round hole, and just because you can, because the law says you can, doesn't necessarily make it right, and doesn't necessarily fit a neighborhood or what have you. And I think there are many challenges. And I know, when the stuff goes to the town, and I know just to kind of a little bit reiterate what the senator said, what municipalities can do and what they can't do. And, they can impose reasonable conditions on a project to address local concerns regarding traffic safety, environmental impacts, so long as they don't have the project doesn't become economically unfeasible. And, I know that's a challenge, because there are certainly going to be public safety issues in any of these projects, environmental issues, and so forth. You can deny a project outright if it poses significant health, safety, and environmental risks, such as flood zone issues, but has to be supported by evidence. So, so I know those are challenges when you're trying to go there. And of course, the senator went through the whole process of, if you do deny it, ultimately can end up in court. But I would just say that, it is, I agree with the senator in trying to see if there's ways of addressing it even further. I mean, we'll take another bite at the apple on the mobile homes, but also take a look at maybe just changing the safe harbor, or tweak a little bit and saying, look, once you get to that 10%, because it's not the town's fault that if you've approved everything and a developer is taking their time, I don't know, let's say excavating, mining granite, takes a while to actually build the units. Therefore, they no longer count, so until they're actually, populated. I don't think that if it's a developer delay, that shouldn't punish the community. And I think that's a fair thing to say. Where we'll get with that is another story. But I think that's, if the developer is the delay, that's not the town delaying the developer. And I think that is something that should be, because my understanding is, you could be, if all these projects all of a sudden now come to fruition, that you could go from being under 10% to up to as high as, 13, 14, 15%. I've heard different numbers thrown, 17. So that's a lot in a short period of time. And, But, and again, I don't understand some of them. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was very frustrated, even when the Mass Housing came to the last site on Athens Street, over Perry Place. I was saying, how did you approve this when it's up abutting the flood zones, and flood zones change? These are one of the reasons that it can be rejected. How do you do that? I didn't get an answer, but these are frustrating things of how you can do that. And then even with Athens, I did reference that in that letter. How do you approve a 3-story or multi-story units when the only, when everything on that street is single-family homes? And that's, I know you're still within the comment period of saying that, and I think hopefully maybe that is something that Mass Housing might take into consideration, and maybe would have the authority, Mass Housing would have the authority to tell the developer they have to do something smaller. Whether the developer would want to do something smaller or not, I don't know, but that is something that they have the authority. That's something that certainly I would harp on as much as possible. And I know there's also wetland issues at that location as well that I'm sure that the town will be discussing and dealing with. But no, it's a frustrating thing, and I get it. It's been around since 1969. I think Mass Housing's been around since like the mid-'60s. And like I said, just a simple change of allowing something like mobile home parks to count as affordable housing can't pass, because I'm told by the chairman in a debate on the House floor that it's an end around 40B. You're just trying to find a loophole. And no, we're just trying to find what's fair. And so there is, may not be a lot of appetite for change, but we have no problem trying to push something forward, and we'll certainly take your input as well.
So just to build upon Paul, so just to clarify so the public may understand, so right now when the projects, you don't count the project until the occupancy is issued, permit is issued. So that means you've got 3 or 4 other projects that are in the pipeline that are going to bring you up to that 17%. So what we're proposing is once the town issues the building permit, the number can be counted, and that would start that would allow Auburn to, not Auburn, but any community to hit the 10%, not wait until all the occupancy permits are issued, which then bring you well over the exceeding amount. Also, just so you know, just that what this issue has been, the climate has been over the years. Several years ago, myself and Representative Jim O'Day chaired the Committee on Municipalities. And at that point, there was a comprehensive municipal reform, zoning reform bill that was pending. That bill would have standardized zoning in every single community in the Commonwealth. Would not have had local option or any sort of local choice. Actually, myself and Representative O'Day actually added the bill about local option to have it adopted, which basically killed, I'm not going to lie, basically killed the bill, because we wanted to give each community the choice whether they wanted to adopt it or not. So when we have some of the larger, more urban communities, as Representative Frost talked about, they are looking that they are looking of the, or they are of the opinion that they are doing more to provide affordable housing than some of the more rural communities. Paul and I, Representative Frost and I were at Perry Place, and we were at the last tour. And again, I mean, I was very shocked that there was no issue, that the permit was issued. I definitely think there's a wetlands issue. I think there's flooding issues. So we were very surprised at that. We did send a letter. There was an issue with 40B in Millbury. We did speak to them. We sent a letter asking the appeal committee to address all the public safety and concerns that those abutters had, and be more than happy to do that again for any of the projects you have here in Auburn. Request that these issues be addressed before a decision is issued. So we're more than happy to work with you on that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do board members have any questions?
Yeah, I guess, so I'm glad to hear that you're working on the safe harbor requirements. Really, again, these are large projects, so they're not going to be built in 12 months. So if you're going to issue it and 12 months later, it's not going to be built, it's not going to be occupied, And the town doesn't have time to adapt to those changes. So we have 300 units coming on in 1 year. We don't know the true impacts. We have some numbers that they tell us 9 students will be added to that. You know, if you have 300, you got to expect more than that. And again, I'm not saying the numbers are right or wrong, but we don't know. So now if we're getting 500 units in a year, that's a burden that I don't think any town could really handle. And they don't allow us to account for what it does to the schools, what it does to other infrastructure, and how to deal with that. So it becomes planning. And I think, again, one of the reasons you can deny a comprehensive permit is safety. But one of our residents has been here several times and mentioned, what's that threshold for safety? Because we have Perry Place, and then we have Vine and Auburn Street, which more accidents are occurring. So how many accidents, how many deaths is it? You know, what is that threshold, and how do we show that that will become a larger burden on the community and have some accountability to that? Because a developer is going to come in, change the dynamic of the community, and we're on the hook. And when I say we're on the hook, somebody's got to make it safe. And if they're not making it safe as part of the project, we need time as a town to plan for that and get those funds. I don't think $1 million for one project is going to help us alleviate many of the concerns. Well, some, but not all. So essentially, we got to go back 30 years and start putting money aside for potential. So if that threshold isn't lifted up or defined what safety is and why we can deny it, we're essentially saying we're denying it on safety, but we don't really know what that means, so we're going to get sued, and now we've got legal costs that really could be going to help improve the community without a definition of that. And, you know, that's something that needs to be looked at, not just delaying the timeline. I'm not looking to circumvent the rules. We need housing. We need safe housing. We talk about affordable housing. 80% AMI is not affordable. I mean, if you want to help the need, lower the threshold, make them get units in at 60% AMI or even lower. And when I get back, sorry, I'm kind of on a rant because I've got all these notes. We talk about the threshold for safety, but economic feasibility. You know what, if I'm gonna make $1 million, I'm pretty happy, but a developer who's making $30 billion a year, is that enough? Like, what is that economic threshold that they need to achieve? And we're taking their word for it. Oh, that's not feasible. We can't reduce the size of this because it's not economically feasible. Again, if you're making a profit, that's feasible. If you're making a profit with some contingency, to me, that's feasible. But they're looking for a lot more, and I don't know who's defining what feasible is. So if you deny it, saying, oh, we need you to help with this, or, hey, you can develop this, but we need to put in sidewalks, and we don't have a budget for 10 years on that, or it's not in the plan. So either fork over some money to help reduce the safety. They're only going to do it to a safety threshold that is defined, which no one has been able to define. So, like, to me, like, we need the housing, but we need it done right. And I don't think when the comprehensive permit's done, like, we shouldn't start clicking to start the clock, but we should say, okay, let's put a pause until we know how long it's going to take to develop this, because that influx, we need units coming on each year, not all of them at once. 72-unit development is probably going to go a lot faster than 300 units, that type of stuff. So there has to be some sort of wording in that safe harbor that says, we're not circumventing the rules, we just need some time to get through this. And for the town to delay it, like, that's a problem. We're not looking, I mean, I don't think anyone's looking to delay anything for the delay's sake, but if we can't get it approved in 180 days and then built in 12 months, and then we're already out of the safe harbor rules, like, that's asinine. We need to start the clock when it's approved, but not start the clock until those units are occupied, because after 10 years, they're coming off deed restrictions. And then in 10 years, we're back on it. And Auburn right now is facing it, and I don't think we're going to stop these developments, and I'm not looking to stop these developments. But other communities are going to be in there. If we look at what Auburn is doing compared to other rural communities or not Worcester, you know, if we're exceeding our burden for the area, why are we going to continue to develop when no one is touching these others because it's economically feasible or we're the desirable place that's getting hit the hardest? Like, you have to slow it down so we can plan properly, I guess is what I would say. I'm sorry, I went on a long rant. I don't know if I hit everything. I know others have stuff, but thank you for trying to do that. But again, there has to be teeth to it, and I would love for the safety threshold to be defined and define economic feasibility in terms that can fluctuate with each project. But again, monstrous buildings in these residential neighborhoods, they're going to change the dynamic of the neighborhood, all so they can make more profit. You know, there's got to be a threshold where the town can push back and say, you might not make $5 million a year, but $4 million's pretty good. Reduce it one story or reduce the size of the overall project. Sorry. Thank you.
Madam Chair, so I'm going to follow your rant with a probably even longer rant, and I apologize to everyone in advance. Just a lot of thoughts going on in my head. In terms of the legislation, and if the select board needs to vote for this, I'm more than happy to put this and make it so that those units are coming on slower. It allows them to get in under that 10% safe harbor wire. And get their projects approved and through that. The other thing I think that is problematic is the maximum required time period of 180 days that our ZBA has to approve this. The reason why I say that is it's 180 days, and yes, they can ask the developer if they'll extend it, but it's at the developer's will, whether they will or not. And I think that, you know, when the ZBA has thrown at them traffic reports that they need time to peer review and digest and go back and forth, or stormwater reports, it was the same thing, digest, go back and forth. And then, you know, there's the you know, is it economically feasible if they're asking them to knock a floor off and to get that, you know, the pro forma statement from the financing committee and then have that peer reviewed. All of that takes time, and the ZBA is trying to meet monthly and digest this and process it, and it takes a lot longer than 180 days.
Todd, can I ask, what would you suggest for,
Yeah, what would you
what's the, are you looking?
What would you think would be a better time?
So I would defer to town administration, our professional staff on a more reasonable timeline. I think 180 days is not enough, or if it's going to be 180 days, allow the town at least one extension on their own, and then a second extension would be at the discretion of the developer.
I actually have a different suggestion. So first of all, the ZBA,
Because you're going to throw me right off my thought process here.
I've got it highlighted. We'll come back to it.
Thank you. And I just want to be very clear that in my opinion, I recognize and believe that we need more housing. We need more housing in central Massachusetts of all types, whether it's single-family, multifamily, workforce housing, affordable housing. And I believe, you know, in the theory and the main purpose of 40B is that we need more affordable housing. However, the way that 40B law is being used, in my mind, is like using a sledgehammer to put a screw in the wall. It is being easily manipulated by developers in order to come into a community and force developments down our throats. And they're getting support from the state agencies that are supposed to be in partnership with the municipalities. I'll be quite honest with you. You know, I've been disappointed on these site walks where Mass Housing sends somebody out. They don't step a foot on the property. They sit on the outside, they have you give all these comments, they say thank you very much, and then they go issue an approval. And we could put anything in that letter, as long as it's financially feasible, you know, they're approving it. They're not doing their due diligence to see if there is public safety issue. They're not doing their due diligence to see if there's a public health issue. They're not doing the due diligence to see if there's environmental issues. We all know Perry Place. We all know the Athens Road. There are environmental issues. The very plan that they gave Mass Housing showed that they were going to be building within the 25-foot buffer zone of the wetlands, not even the 100-foot, the 25-foot. And Mass Housing checked it off and said no environmental issues. We know that the road is not wide enough for fire trucks to get down. And the whole thing hinges on them increasing the width of the road, going into wetlands that border on the road or going into private property. There is no, do you have the right to do this? No, they just checkmarked it and sent it forward. And it's on the town to sort this out. Well, they're supposed to be doing their part. So what I would appreciate, not just from your office in terms of putting this legislation forward, I would appreciate more pressure from the legislature to get mass housing and those to live up to their portion of 40B, which is when they do their review, to not just say whether it's financially feasible, but to actually look at whether there are public safety issues. Do these developers, both Perry Place and Athens Road, are on private ways, and it's in question whether they even have the right to build or improve those right-of-ways. They should have made them prove that fact before giving them the checkoff and put it on the town to have to deal with those issues. They should have done the environmental, at least on the state level, the environmental impact ahead of time before checking it off and sending it to the local level. Mass DEP has the professional staff that can do that very fast. Mass DOT has the professional staff that can look at whether there are public safety related issues. The traffic report that the town got had so many fatal flaws, and that went to the state ahead of time. The consultant for Perry Place, quite frankly, underrated the number of crashes at a key intersection at Perry Place and Auburn Street. Perry Street. He said there were no crashes. There were like 18 crashes within a 5-year period. It took me 5 minutes by going to the Mass DOT crash portal to find that out. Clearly, there were some credibility issues there. But our ZBA does not have the time, given the 180-day window, to have their peer review look at it, to push that back, to ask for another traffic report or a revised traffic report. And what's the developer going to do? Is he really going to say, no, I'll give you more time to criticize my project? Or is he going to say, no, sorry, I'm sticking to the 180 days and I'm going to go take my chance to a state board that is known for pushing through 40B development housings, regardless of what local boards say? So, I mean, there has to be some accountability to state agencies to do their part. The towns, we're trying to do our part. We're welcoming housing. We understand the need. We're just asking for a little breathing room to do it the right way. And as Mr. Chambers said, the 80% affordable is a joke. That's not affordable. 80% of the area median income is not affordable. If we're really concerned about affordable housing, we should be looking at 30 to 60%. So that's another thing that personally I would like to see the legislation changed, that if the developer's coming in for 40B housing and is able to end run all of our zoning and all of our protections, then he should have to provide real affordable housing. 30%, 40%, 50%, 60% of AMI, so that those units are actually affordable to people who have income limitations. 80% is very.
So can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So do you feel the law as written, excluding the 80% AMI, do you think the law as written, if the state agencies were actually fulfilling their responsibility, the law could be held to what it should, the purpose of the law could be obtained, or?
So I think the goals of the law could be obtained or achieved if you do two things. One, you actually make the state do their part in terms of making sure before they advance something that there is public safety, public health, and environmental issues. There are none. And then they can advance it to the town. I also think that you could actually get real affordable housing by getting rid of that 80% and making a certain amount, a certain percentage, 60% instead of 80%. If we can go even lower, that's better. But I think probably the appetite would be 60% versus 80%. It's still profitable for the developers, but it's actually a real savings where you can actually get those residents that need that support. Thank you.
So back to the 180 days.
And not to cut you off, Steve, I think Dan was waiting with the...
Yeah, no, that's fine. Trust me. And so, thank you both for making time to come and be with us. It is appreciated, and I know this is a fraught issue, and it has certainly in both of your careers, perhaps not in your town or districts, but certainly in other districts, they have fought valiantly against, as you say, the interests of some who write off residents of the community as NIMBYs, not taking into account the fact that, first of all, a town of 17,000 people would, with 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, we have not seen that, and I would say most of the communities outside of maybe Shrewsbury or Charlton have never seen the amount of population growth since the war years, and I mean the Second World War years. So you have to think of that. You also have to think about the fact that our departments are not large. We do not have a city department. We do not have a resident engineer and 15 engineers underneath them. We don't get block grants. We don't have resources that some of our eastern friends get, and even some of our southern friends and western friends get. And I'm not opposed to them getting them, but I think you need to understand, not you, but the people who are relegating this to a tagline that they can put on a bumper sticker, which is great when you're running for re-election, but it's not really good policy. So starting with Mitt Romney, he tried to reform it with his smart growth. That didn't go anywhere. Now we have Charlie Baker. He thought he was even a genius, and he was coming up with something else. And now we have Governor Healy trying to, once again, be something she's not, which is a local official who has to actually deal with what the federal government and the state government tells us what we have to do. So, having been on the planning board and on the Conservation Commission prior to sitting here, those rules are very difficult. Those roles are very difficult. The ZBA does not do plan review for housing as a matter of course. So my suggestion would be to take this responsibility away from the ZBA, and move it to the planning board, which does site review, special permits. They do stormwater much more frequently than the ZBA. The ZBA does variances, they do some special permits in the town of Auburn, but not every town. They do our, multifamilies. But the reality is the planning board meets twice a month. Most planning boards in the communities around us and in your districts meet twice a month, so that would alleviate the 180 because they would be meeting more frequently. The other thing is, again, we need to look at this process. 1969 was a long time ago. I mean, I don't think anybody remembers Frank Sargent voting for him anytime currently. So we've had a lot of governors. Let's try and reform a law that is well-intentioned but is poorly implemented.
So I think we talked about the 180 days. The problem with putting that time limit is some projects are larger than others, and they require more time. Some are multi-buildings, others are just single buildings. So, to say 180 days or put a time restriction on anything, it really should be tied to the size of the project and what would be included in that project. So we have our normal permits that we would go through, like conservation and traffic studies, all that. But it's going to be a lot easier on a smaller project. The larger projects, it's going to take more time. And again, asking for it, we don't know because it's on the developer to go back and get those reports and resources. And it's on the people that the town hire for peer review and their workload. And if we have 10 of these things going on, and I know I just exaggerated, but let's say we have 4 of them going on, and their workload and the time commitment that they've allocated for Auburn and Auburn reviews is going to really change. They're not going to hire staff for potential project season just to do that. So those could delay that. I know we can ask for service level agreements, but again, on a 300-unit project, it's a lot different than a 70-unit project. Everyone has their own. So I don't think it should be tied to that until those are known. Or, you can say at this point, once all these items have been achieved, start the clock. And then I don't know if 180 days still, but waiting and going back and forth, and sometimes they come in and there's new questions that come up. We're not all experts. Our boards are volunteer boards. They're spending their time doing this. They're not all experts in it, and they're getting more and more knowledgeable, but our professional staff has to go out to limited and has to go out to peer review because we just we're not ready for this expected growth or the project growth that these are putting on the town. So, thank you.
So would you want the size of the project or the amount of housing proposed? Because so if you went to the size of the project, and say it gave you 240 days, but then you had another 2 projects proposed, would you want by the total amount, would say,
So I would say, like, each project is separate, so, like, we have,
so if it's 240 and 100, and then another, say, 80, that adds up to whatever, you'd have extended period because of the amount of housing
well,
proposed.
it depends on how it's stacked, but each project, if you're going to tie it to each project's different. If you're going to tie it to that project, then there needs to be guidelines around, if you're doing 150 units, then, you know, it's a 300 days, or whatever it is, but really, that, it could be 180 days. If it's, once these are provided and peer-reviewed, then we can start the clock. That way, it allows for that, because it's not a town delay. We're not seeking who's going to delay it, like which peer reviewer is the most backed up. Like, we're not looking at that. We're looking for qualified people that have done work with the town and continue. So again, that could be perceived as a delay, but if the clock starts after those things are done, then the boards have that information. And I love the planning board idea, and it's nothing to do with, you know, the ZBA. It has everything to do with most of what the planning board does is housing and these projects and, you know, site plan review and all that. So going to a comprehensive permit through one board and then asking everyone for input, yeah, it's supposed to capture that, but have that go with the planning board and have the information come in from others, because, again, zoning's dealing with different issues, and, yeah, the variance for density, that's not a reason, we're not allowed to deny on that, right? So what's the point of having the main reason of their board to approve those variances, and you're pretty much just saying, yeah, you can't approve those because you're going to get sued and you're going to move forward with the project anyway.
I just wanted, the planning board's a great idea. I think I'm a little biased because I was also on the planning board, but I agree that, you know, it's more in their wheelhouse than the ZBA. I understand the reason why the ZBA was because they tend to be the ones that give the variances, and the whole thing is that you're giving this developer variances from your zoning, but, you know, I think the planning board is more capable of doing this based on the type of work that they do regularly. In terms of the, you know, the 180-day issue, you know, I understand that 2 things have to happen. 1, you have to be able to put this in legislation that makes sense and is readable, and 2, it has to be able to get passed. And given the pushback that 40B and home rule petitions have had in the past, and even the mobile home, even something as simple as 180 days, the municipality gets to extend it by another 60 days at their discretion, and then can ask for any extension beyond that. Even that extra 60 days will give us, you know, more breathing room, if that makes sense, and is something that is more able to sort of pass the legislature. You know, even something that as small as that would make a big difference, I think, in my
Well, let me
mind.
tell you, even the small change we want to make about when you count.
Yep.
from
Oh, I
occupancy,
know it's going to be, yeah,
That's going to be very difficult.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Well, I think you'll have a lot of support from your colleagues, because obviously, we all know Auburn isn't the only community facing this, but if you can get some of your colleagues, I'm sure you'll do a count and try and get them to explain what we're all facing. I think it's very different for a project of even some of our sizes in the city of Boston, or Springfield, or Holyoke. And the other thing that always gets lost in the conversation about, well, cities or areas in eastern Massachusetts have a preponderance of these things. They also have the vast majority of public transit funding. I mean, when they talk about public transit, talk to anybody in 2/3 of the state. They don't get billions of dollars to build trains and extend train tracks, and they don't have money in their budget when a train derails to have bus service. So it's a scale size as much as it is. Nobody's saying, I am not against affordable housing, but when the actual person who comes out for the site visit actually says at the public walkthrough that it isn't affordable housing at the rate that we're talking about, you're not achieving the goal. Nobody is achieving the goal of actually housing people at an affordable rate. So you're not achieving your goal. So that's the other bad part of this law, is at 80%, even the person issuing the letter is telling us it's not affordable. So I think people need to really look at it and examine their own biases, which we all have them. But the reality is, we don't have, Millbury doesn't have, Oxford doesn't have real public transit that a person can count on to go to work every day. So there's a reason why a lot of people who have lower income, they also have Section 8 vouchers. They also have more options to get to work because they can't afford a car. So there's a lot of reasons why these areas, and they're also closer to work. A lot of these people work in the hospitality industry. Boston makes a great deal of its income from hospitality. Well, they don't want to live out in Auburn and have to take the commuter rail in, which is late every day, 7 days a week, and at a price point that they can't afford. So they're already working long hours. There might be a reason why they're staying there. And as someone who worked for a state agency that is not known for paying people very much money, it always amazes me that the people who work in some of the state offices in the Boston area can even afford to rent there. I think most of our state employees have a hard time, yet they seem to find ways to be housed down there so that they can work there. But I do know that it's a problem to attract people there because it's so damn expensive to live there. So I think there's a lot of things that obviously you gentlemen have a tough road ahead, as we all do, but I think there's a lot of good arguments that we can make for why we're doing this now. We can't stop the person who is so mired in their own biases that they're just going to say, well, that's because you want to do a workaround. You know.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen. I can see the planning committee background in all of your questions. Thank you. My question, to your knowledge, has any project ever been turned down by a town?
I'd have to look at that.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Thank you.
Do board members have any other questions?
I can just tell you, I know for a fact, projects have been turned down by the town, but they've been reversed at the state. The most recent one was, quote unquote, the Weston Whopper, I believe was the nickname given to it. It was turned
I
down.
assume she was talking about the state agent from the state.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, actually, both. So
Okay.
I don't know about the state agencies. I know that municipalities have turned down projects, and the vast majority of the time, they are overridden when they go to the state board.
Okay, thank you.
So a project denied by the state agency?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they ever denied? It sounds like they're not.
Or court, because if if that independent group,
Appeals
if that decision gets appealed, they can get appealed to the court, and goes to court. I think, was it
Yes.
Superior Court?
Yep.
Yeah.
Keep in mind the bias against volunteers. We're not given a lot of credence in the legal profession. So, they don't think that we actually know anything or that we know our town. So they automatically, somebody who's an engineer comes in and sells them something. They take that over the people who know their community. So there's that extra hurdle that ZBAs and other town officials face because we're volunteers. What would we know? We don't spend countless hours learning things. We just, do things off the fly.
Is there any other questions that you may have?
Do board members have any other questions?
I don't know if it's a question, but I do know a lot of times they come before ZBA with incomplete plans, and they say, well, we'll get further along. We'll get further along. So the developers aren't necessarily coming in prepared right off the bat, and if we're starting that clock and they're not prepared, it really does put a burden, and they want that clock to start, and they say, oh, well, they're incomplete because we're waiting for feedback. And then they get feedback, and then, again, it drags it out. So if they're not coming in with all the information that they can, so the boards can make the best decision they can or provide the right feedback they can, the burden, again, is on the town to hurry up and get this done. So that extension, again, whether it's 180 days plus an extension, I do think it'd be nice to have it tied to when things are completed, not this is a rendering and this is what we think we'll do. And I understand once they get comprehensive permit, they'll go through and the planning department needs to review them and make sure they're to code and things that they're not allowed to bypass. But there's a lot of incomplete stuff that comes, and if that clock's ticking and it's started and you're waiting another month to get something that's even more recognizable, that's a problem. Sorry, I'll end.
No, and they should have to develop, they have plans that aren't even what a planning board would vote on for a, what's the term when they come in before they do the actual subdivision. There's a outside process that people can go in to kind of shorten the window in Auburn. I'm not saying other places. But they should have developed their plans to a degree where professionals can actually determine that they can verify them. Everything that they do, even to the ZBA, is all somebody's drawing on a plan. They're not finalized, and that should never be. I mean, how can you ask somebody to vote on something when the details, when the person presenting it can't even tell you that it can be built? So they say we can't treat them any differently, but actually the state has created a different level of review for these individuals with no responsibility. So we're saying to every other business owner, you want to come in and you want to open up a Dunkin' Donuts, you got to have a plan that is this, this, and this. But when we do a 40B, we say, well, just let your imagination run wild, and maybe something will. And then again, to my colleague's point, we get these ridiculous letters. I mean, they work for the state. There are maps that show, that the state maintains to show where endangered species are. Just a cursory review would show that Perry Place and Athens Street might actually have it. They keep track of perennial streams versus intermittent streams. I mean, the state generates a lot of information. They don't have to look very far to get information before they sit there and check off a box and say that there's no environmental problems. Because anybody who's been in Auburn for more than a minute knows that we have a vast array of wetlands. And we also have had major projects that have redirected waterways. We have roads that, are full of fill. There's a lot of issues. But I think that they need to really look at their process and also use their own resources that they develop, and they expect our Conservation Commission to follow. They expect our volunteers to follow their rules, but yet they're not even looking at their maps. They're not even doing a cursory review. I mean, as Mr. Corain said, they don't even step, well, you've been there, both of you have been to all of them. They don't even walk the property. How can you call that a site visit? And then issue a letter of, oh, it's fine. You haven't even looked at it.
Thank you so much for everybody's comments. Thank you, gentlemen. Absolutely.
All right, so my one request would be for the board, if you could, in a letter to Representative Frost and I, detail what you would like to see us try to address, because my intention is when we get the letter, I would like to go to the other communities in my district, to their towns, to get some consensus from them. And I would also like to reach out to the Mass Municipal Association. As I think you had talked about us gaining support from other legislators, that would be significant if we could get the MMA on board with this. So if we could get something official from the board, it doesn't have to be a town meeting vote. I'm just talking about a letter from the Board of Selectmen stating the position and recommendations. And if you want to throw in there the date of, rather occupancy, the date of the building, put that in there too, just so we can.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely something on if the developer delays. I think that, that shouldn't, the time shouldn't run out on that. And if it's a developer delay and not a town, a town issue, if it's just because they want to site prep the property or mine or whatever it is that they're doing, that should stay on the books. They got approval to build it, so it should still be counting, and then unless they withdraw, then, you know, but, and the fact that you brought up that a same developer can come into the community with multiple projects and intentionally delay so that they can get their projects in, I think that's, you know, that's gaming the system. And that certainly, so I think something like that would hopefully put an end to that as well, if we can get it anywhere, but, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jen.
Senator. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I urge if there are residents that have comments for the senator or representative, that they reach out to their office. Thank you so much.
So there's no public comment here? Seriously?
There's no public comment. This wasn't a question if, I'm sorry. No, thank you. There is no public comment here. You can sign up for public comment after this if you'd like.
There's no sheets.
It is right up here. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
It's really not fair.
If you would know, I'm sorry, please. No, this is not a time for public comment. If you would like to sign up for public comment, there is a sign-up sheet right here. You can sign up.
Well, we had questions for them.
I asked you to address them, to their office.
Madam Chair, can I make a motion that we move up item 8A, the Boy Scout Troop 101, board vote on open air license?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The chair is yes as well.
Have a good night.
Would you like to come up? Hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Did you want to tell us your name and a little bit about your request?
My name's Chris Sylvester. I'm with Troop 101. We run a Boy Scout yard sale on I always get it wrong. Memorial Day weekend. I usually mess up that and Labor Day. Memorial Day weekend. We it's the biggest fundraiser of the year for the Scouts, so we can alleviate the cost for them to go to summer camp or scouting programs throughout the year. And we take donations from the town to help out anybody who's trying to empty a house for various reasons. I think it's been like 20-something years, 30 years, Scouts been doing it. It's been a long time.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we issue the license with our usual verbiage.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Make a motion that we waive the licensing fee or whatever fees we charge because it is a nonprofit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Thank you, we
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good night. No, so we are moving back up to number 3, public comment. I believe we only have one person signed up for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to the board. I just wanted to let the board know and let the public know that this Wednesday at 6 p.m., there will be a community meeting on the proposed fire headquarters project at the Auburn Middle School in the library. The Fire Station Building Committee will open their meeting at 5:30. They'll have a short business meeting, and then the community meeting will begin at 6 o'clock. Our Tecton architects, our OPM from left field, as well as the committee, will be doing a presentation on the proposal, reviewing the exterior and interior designs, the tax impact, basically everything project-related will be covered on Wednesday night. So again, 6 p.m. in the Auburn Library, the library at the Auburn Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to make a public comment that hasn't signed up? Okay, so seeing none, we are going to move to number 4, community organizations. We have none, and that puts us at number 6, departmental items. So if you'd like to come up?
They did.
Excellent. Thank you for your time this evening. I just wanted to thank Dory for allowing me to chat about what we have going on this summer from the Auburn Recreation and Culture Division. And before you tonight, you'll see the attached Auburn Recreation and Culture Summer Camp brochure for 2025. We will offer the 10% discount for each attendee and families with one or more child attending, and there will also be a 20% reduction for residents meeting eligibility requirements that we discussed last year in length. So thank you for that. I appreciate you. You'll also see we have the Independence Day flyer attached with the date of June 27th, Friday, with a rain date of July 2nd. Our annual event will include a welcoming ceremony, live entertainment with the outriggers, food vendors, artisan vendors, face painting, carnival games and rides, trackless rides, and fireworks. Trackless train rides, excuse me. We'll offer youth tennis again. We have USTA-approved coach. This program focuses on developing skills to serve, rally, and play. We focus on fun and learning the basics using age-appropriate rackets. The children love it. And we have our March flyers included with yoga, bar class, unified basketball, indoor pickleball, co-ed basketball, and Pilates. Some of those programs will continue in April, and then other programs will move outdoors as the weather is getting nicer. We're excited. Our summer in the concert series flyers included. I want to shout out to Kenny Fairbanks. He does an amazing job picking our concerts. We enjoy having the farmers market there as well. And it's been very enjoyable to have the concert. We have food trucks, awareness groups, and they rotate weekly. We have 13 of those, so we enjoy the community gathering together. The only thing you don't have with you, I did a townwide yard sale last year. We had spots at Pappas Recreation Complex. I'm looking to do that in the end of June, and that was successful last year, so we'll do that again if there's no opposed. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions? Do I need to call on someone?
Yes, I think you do. Call on Todd.
Through you, Madam Chair. No questions. I just want to thank you for doing all this great work. This is, the stuff that really makes Auburn a true community. Every year you knock it out of the park, and once again, hearing that Mr. Fairbanks is taking on another thing and organizing the concerts is amazing. I don't know how he divides his time, but it's great work. And I especially want to thank you for maintaining. I know that we probably have utilized all of the ARPA money that we had done for the discount for means-based, but I want to thank you for including that moving forward and offering that 20% discount. I think that's an important way to open up our programs to those who under normal circumstances might not be able to afford it. So thank you very much for carrying that forward.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate the same thing. I knew Todd would say it more eloquently, so I let him go first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We are moving on to 6B, the DPW and police and updates.
Madam Chair, before we do that, we have someone who's waiting here for a change of manager. Can I make a motion that we move up item 8B?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Did you want to come up? Hi. Can you just give us your name and the request?
My name's Laurie Kaman. I'm the general manager of the 99 Restaurant in Auburn. I'm just requesting for a change of manager.
Okay. Do board members have any questions?
So are you the manager now?
I am.
Are you the new manager?
Not a new manager for the 99. I've held licenses in the city of Worcester at 11 East Central Street and 50 Southwest Cutoff. I've moved to the Auburn location in November.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the change of manager with our usual verbiage.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we move up item 8C.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Is there someone here from Sean Farrell Excavation?
They're not required to be here.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the drain layer license for Sean Farrell.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. So we are moving back to 5B, so the update from DPW.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to give my update. I have a quick presentation, and I also wanted to thank the board for going and taking the time to go to our site walk to look at the project. Just get my. So I just wanted to give a quick update on Camp Gleason. There's been a lot of work done the last couple of months, but just wanted to start out with, kind of go from where we started from to where we are now. The overall project goals, or the main goal was to provide structural improvements for the building internally and externally, including replacement of the wheelchair ramp, replacing the existing retaining wall, and removing the existing stairs that are not safe. I know that it wasn't really a great day to take a walk around, but they're not in any state to be used any longer. Moving on to the remainder of the project, replacing the existing overhang patio and columns that was done in 21, and also regrading and adding riprap to existing swales that convey flow from the parking lot to Eddy Pond. So I'm not sure how visible this is, but it's basically a overview of the site. It shows the location of the wheelchair ramp, where we're going to be rebuilding that. The existing stairs are going to be eliminated. We have removed the columns and installed new 3-foot frost walls and a 1-foot knee wall. We are looking to replace the retaining wall and some drainage improvements. Sorry. So this is a proposed site plan of the exterior improvements. So we're looking to line the existing parking lot, taking advantage of some reduction in impervious areas, including a rain garden, and improving some of the outfalls, which will also give us some credit for our MS4 permit. So looking at the exterior progress, these are some of the pictures that we're taking around 2020. We had, and mind you, the majority of the work has been done by our facility section, which is made up of 2 people. Some of the bigger projects, we've pulled highway employees or employees from other divisions. But you can see some of the demo work that was being done outside, as well as the rebuilding of that second story, which was structurally deficient. Here are some before and after pictures of the exterior of the building. The interior progress from 2020 to 22 was mainly just demo and framing, and then rebuilding of that little addition that used to overhang on the outside. The interior progress, which started when our new facilities division, new facilities supervisor started, includes insulation, rough HVAC install, rough electrical, rough plumbing, drywall painting, and cleaning. So just to kind of cover some of the unforeseen issues that we've encountered, obviously it's an older building, and the deeper we've gone into it, the more we uncovered and the more that we needed to remediate. So one of the things that we didn't really expect, I think part of it is because it's such a small project, we were having trouble finding contractors to bid on items. So there were several items that we never got a bidder for, so we had to actually search for an HVAC and an insulation contractor, which extended the project timeline. The project budget was developed in 2020, so those costs are reflective of, didn't reflect the rising costs that we have seen over the last 5 years. We have utilized staff, DPW staff, as much as we could to be able to save money. And I can tell you that I can give you an example. As recently as this fall, we were talking about putting up drywall, and to make the project go a little bit faster, we went out to bid. The project was estimated by a facilities section to be about a little under $10,000. We were looking to see maybe if we could not wait until the winter to do the project. That's when our highway staff was available to help out. So our estimate that came in to have an outside consultant was $69,769. And that was the only bid that we were received. So it's a huge saving for the town. Unfortunately, it did cause delays. One of the other issues is employee turnover. We have the facility supervisor. He moved down south about a year ago, so we searched for and found a replacement, but obviously he still had to take some time to get familiar with the project and kind of hit the ground running after that. One of the bigger issues that we're looking at right now is we weren't aware that there was an existing oil tank that was replaced, but we don't know the status of the old one. So we have a contractor on board that is ready to remove the oil tank and test the soils around it. There is a potential that the soils might be exactly. Might be contaminated, and they would have to be removed. So we have the funding to remove the tank, but as you might have seen for the town meeting warrants, we're looking for additional funding to finish out, to complete the project. And there's some contingencies that we're also looking at to cover the cost of that soil being removed. We've also found additional asbestos As the more we uncovered and the more we removed, we found more asbestos that needs to be remediated, and we have consultants that are on board that are ready to remove that as well, so that we can move forward with the project. And overall, it's an older building, and there probably isn't a right angle in the entire place, so that the finish work, like the plastering, takes a lot more time to actually smooth it out and make it look right, even though it might not be exactly square. So it just causing a little bit more delays. So this is basically a list of items that are outstanding, and an approximate timeline of when they will be done. They might shift back and forth depending on when things are scheduled, like when asbestos removal is being done. Obviously, we can't really be in the building. So those include asbestos removal, finishing drywall, finishing painting, hanging doors, trim, flooring, finishing the kitchen, bathroom and kitchen plumbing, finalizing HVAC, electrical, and replacing the sewer, the UN grinder pump. For the exterior improvements, the big one is the oil tank removal. We're looking to fill and insulate the water service bunker in the basement. I'm not sure if you had a chance to really look into it, look inside it, but it doesn't have a ceiling or any much structural stability. So we're looking to close it off, just so that to prevent any additional issues. We're looking to remove and regrade the exterior steps, repave the parking lot, upgrade the drainage, and install the ADA ramp alongside the building. This is the estimated cost to complete the project that is not currently funded. One of the bigger expenses that was underestimated was the HVAC. It was estimated at $40,000. It came out at around $120,000. So we have that. We have the UN grinder pump, electrical trim, countertops, furnishings at $20,000, video equipment. Some of the video equipment is already funded, but there's some additional funds that might be needed. The water service bunker work, the ADA ramp, the oil tank remediation, and a $30,000 contingency.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions?
Yeah, it looks like, thank you for the update. So it looks like the building's going to be ready in late July, is that correct? Or?
That would be the goal. We have our facilities section. Like I said, we have 2 employees working on it, so sometimes they get pulled into, if there's other priorities, but we're keeping them focused in the building.
Thank you. And to our interim town manager, do you want to tell people what the building will be used for?
Sure. Through the chair, the building will be used for, hopefully, eventually, public use. But preliminarily, we're hoping to open the building for public meetings like this. We will have a full room for video, so much like what you see in the room here. There's a space in that location for videographer and for a sound system, which is completely wired at this point. We also have a kitchen that's being put in there, so we're hoping to do some sort of programming with the kitchen. And we also have, like Kristen was talking about earlier, we have a lot of rec programs, and we're hoping to use that space also for recreation. And I'm not sure if that's going to be all year round or partial year, but I think it's going to be a great resource for the town of Auburn. And it can also, another good thing is to be used as a meeting room, a room that actually has long tables in addition to what we have here. So it can be a resource to our boards and commissions as well as regular meetings within internal department meetings and meetings with vendors. So I think the way it's set up and with the system that it's set up, it's going to be able to be used for a variety of things.
Great, thank you.
If I may, the cable will be using it primarily as a home as well, correct?
Yes, the cable they will have an office there, yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, so I was not on the board when this was started, including the $210,000 that's being asked for at this upcoming town meeting. What's the total cost of this project at now?
It will be about $500,000.
What is it? I'm sorry.
About 500,000.
500,000 total, including the 210?
I'm sorry, I'm not accounting for the ARPA, so 600.
600,000? Okay. When do we expect this building to come online? And the only reason why I ask is because we're using internal forces that are obviously trying to dedicate as much time as possible to here, but also get pulled away because we have other buildings we need to maintain. And when I added up all of the days to complete the outstanding tasks, we're at 218 days of work. Yet the schedule says we're going to be open in early July, and I just don't understand how that maths.
So there's overlapping items on the schedule. I can provide the board with a chart that was not going to be able to fit onto the screen. But there are certain things that that we can do that are outside while contractors might be inside. So the schedule includes both DPW and contractor work.
The last thing is that some of this work is scheduled to be done in April and early May before town meeting votes to allocate the 210,000. So how are we doing that?
That is correct. We still have some funding left, so we're using the funding that we have existing to finish up the work that we have. We've broken the budget down to what we can do now with the funding we have and what we can do after July 1st with the appropriation.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to make a note, and can you explain the source of the funding for this project?
So there was an initial town meeting vote, and I'm not sure, I wasn't involved in the 2019 town meeting, but the majority of the funds came from the Auburn Cable, the ACTV funds, and there was some additional funds that were appropriated through ARPA.
Thank you.
If I may, I mean, this has been going on a long time. I know we had COVID as well. Was able to tour earlier with this meeting, and the work is getting done, and it's quality work. I appreciate that. But this is one of those things we should consider in the future, not using internal resources, because the community's not getting what they expected. We haven't been able to use it for multiple years, as well as the resources of internal staff being pulled away, so they're not able to fully do all the other things that the town expects and we pay for. So if this comes before us again, I think we need to really consider going out to bid. I heard the DPW director say she couldn't get bids for HVAC. Well, if that's out with a contractor, that's their responsibility, not on our staff to go chasing people down to find out. They also have connections where they can call in favors to get things. So I think it's more than 600,000. I'm not going to question everything, but this cost really we need to get in there to use it. But I mean, if town meeting votes not to approve $200,000, we're sitting here with a vacant building. So it kind of puts them in a position of, well, we got to keep funding this thing. Hopefully this is the end, but we've already gone back to the well once. So in the future, we need to consider asking for total project and making sure that we're not using internal resources.
That's my statement, sorry.
Are there any other questions?
Just thank you for coming in, and let's hope that this is, we do achieve what we say we're going to do in the time frame that we say we're going to do it. Because I don't think there's a third time at the well. I don't think the town meeting is going to continue to pour money into a building, which is a small footprint, first of all. I mean, it was never a huge building, even with the basement. It was never a big building. But, you know, I agree with Mr. Chambers. We can't keep trying to save money in ways that don't work. Because if you calculate how many years we didn't have the building times how much it's costing us, it's costing us a lot more. And that's after, I mean, the town abandoned the building pretty much. They didn't do anything for a long, long time. So I'm sure it did fall into disrepair. And it's an old building. So I'm sure there were challenges that couldn't be foreseen because it's a 1930, well, we say it's a 1930s building. It probably predates, you know, the 1930s by a good stretch. But I appreciate the update. Thank you so much on the site walk and getting to meet Andy. That was great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I make a motion that we move item 8I to next, to be considered next?
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair is a yes as well. So we are moving up some board-sponsored items.
Madam Chair, I don't believe that's possible. I believe we actually have to vote to reopen the warrant before we're able to consider warrant articles.
I was under the impression that we had to approve these as a board before we put them in.
So we approve them, and then we open up the warrant, and then we insert them in the warrant?
That was my.
Okay,
correct.
I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
That is correct.
Because I know DPW also has another warrant that they also want to insert.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so these are some select board general items. The first one is a senior tax petition. Did you want to, I know this one is Todd and Dan, do you guys want to talk about it a little bit first?
You certainly can. I feel guilty. We have staff sitting out here, and I don't want them to be kept for extra hours because we're here till the end of the meeting, so.
I mean, I do believe most of them here are for warrant articles, so.
So, I mean, I'm more than happy to jump in. So essentially, the last two tax classification hearings, all of us have opined on the need to do better for our seniors, and we've seen lots of discussions on, on social media as well as town meeting members, believing that in order to make Auburn a place where our seniors can age in place, stay in their homes longer, that we would look for opportunities to provide an increase in tax incentives for them. And unfortunately, the way that the state legislation is written, the thresholds are locked in place until they are changed by legislation. So Auburn is certainly not going to be the only community doing this. We are seeking permission from town meeting to file a home rule petition or have our legislative delegation file it on our behalf and support it. That would accomplish several goals with respect to the senior property tax abatement. It would essentially increase the floor or the starting point for the various deductions, and then the local options that we currently take advantage of would be on top of that. So essentially, the first thing that we're requesting would be increasing the sum of $500 contained in the first sentence clause to actually start at $1,500 as the floor for the tax rebate. Of course, there is language built in that you cannot have, and I would welcome the assessing staff to please join us and correct me if I misstate anything, that the current tax bill cannot be less than what you paid last year. So there's that built in this, in the safeguard. The second would be that we build in a higher floor. Right now for the income level, it is $13,000 single or $15,000 married. We would be increasing this to 50% of the area median income as adjusted per household. And so this builds in an annual increase for that floor level. Currently, what that means is when I look at the current area median income, that 13 goes to 23,006. That 15,000 goes to 33,774.50, and then again, the local option would be above that. We are also doing something that I know I've spoken to several residents about. Right now, if I own a house with my mother and I reside in the house with her, we are not qualified, or she is not qualified for that tax incentive because I do not meet the age and income requirements. This allows a parent who is living in the domicile, co-owns it with their child, because often what happens is the parent wants to pass it on to their child, so they add them on the deed, and the minute they do that, they're no longer qualified. This allows them to do that. Also, the next thing that it does is that when you look at the total assets that the person has, minus, I believe, their domicile as well as their vehicle, right now, the threshold is $28,000 to not more than $80,000. We are moving that to $30,000, not more than $110,000. Again, that's the floor, and then any local options would be built on above that. So essentially, we are trying to increase the pool of seniors who would qualify for the senior tax rebate, as well as to potentially provide a larger benefit to them, again, with the overall goal of allowing them to remain in the home, in the community that they built longer. And Mr. Carpenter, I don't know if you want to add
No, I think
anything.
Do board members have any questions? I have questions. Do we know what % of residents would qualify for this?
I do not. I would have no way of knowing that. I would, if the assessors had done any math on that, I'm not sure.
I can tell you.
I will tell you it is more than what currently qualifies under the current regulations.
Of course, I know I have last year's submittals, but I don't know if I have it right with me. Right now, as far as 41Cs, I believe there's only about 40 to 45 people that I have. It's rotating every year because obviously some are deceased. We do try to put it out there to people. You had mentioned about the child and whatnot. We have had residents ask how, and we obviously can't give legal advice, but a life estate usually will take care of that end of it anyway, so they can still get the exemption. They just have to do it before the July 1st, beginning of the fiscal year.
And I just want to stress that this does not mean that this goes into place. This just means that we have to file it with the legislature, along with, I counted when I counted the recent bill filings, around 10 communities that are doing similar, including the city of Boston. And all of this is in line with what those other communities were doing, because I figured, again, as I said to the senator and the representative, when you're looking at this type of legislation, to keep it, one, readable, but also within the smell test or the taste test, that if several communities are asking for the same thing, there's a good chance that maybe they'll just amend the damn law, and we won't have to go through this.
My next question is, what would the financial impact for the town be, and how would that be covered given the current budget? I mean, we're in a pretty tight budget, and if we move this from 40 to 45 families to 50 to 60, that's purely a guess. I feel like that impacts other residents
It does,
pretty
but
negatively.
But you have to look at we have our tax bills on the residential side. So when we vote to change the factor, as all of us have done over the years, that has just increased further pressure on people who are living on less. So much like the small business tax credit, the cost of this will be borne by people in the residential class. So all of us sitting here will pay a portion of this. It won't be the town has to come up with $50,000, $100,000, which even at that, at an $84 million budget, we should be able to find that kind of money. But that isn't how it will be funded. It'll be funded by the taxpayers in the class, in the residential class. So we need not worry about burdening the...
Town budget.
Exactly.
Fair.
I also think, again, we've had discussions, this is one of those vulnerable classes. I mean, to me, I'm looking at this and I don't want to spend any more money on taxes. I want to spend our money wisely. But the numbers are increasing, but to me, they don't seem like they're increasing enough to really move the needle. I mean, I would ask, again, if we could structure it, if it is with, inflation and such, because, again, your investments, if you had 80,000 this year, it's possible you end up with 20,000 or you end up with 120,000, depending on how your investments go. And again, these are people that have already put in their time. They've, I think the classifications here are pretty strict. I don't see it going up to 300 people. And then again, we come back for budgeting and everything. I mean, just off my head, it's probably pennies for the increase, and that's, again, if we don't cut elsewhere.
So you're suggesting maybe similar to now, correct me if I'm wrong, 41C is tied to the CPI, Consumer Price Index, correct, or it isn't?
We do
The
a
asset,
COLA every year.
the asset level, so we could certainly potentially...
I'm okay with this as it is, but again, like just looking at it, I mean, we've had the discussions about how do we allow seniors to stay in their home. This, to me, works. One thing that may come up again with the accessory dwelling unit, is it still classified as one home and then someone lives in one section and the other? Like, how does that impact? Because if those take off, and again, construction costs are high, so I don't see 800 homes getting accessory dwelling units, but that could increase the number of cohabitation in the future.
Well, this isn't addressing that particular issue.
I'm just saying, like,
No,
but the cohabitation aspect of it, again, that might have an influx in the future, but again, we're talking years down the road.
But I would think that would be ownership. So that would be if the ADU was owned. And I don't know if you can do that. You can build it on your property, but it would have to be owned by, it could not be, because you wouldn't meet the area or the frontage. You wouldn't meet the dimensions. So you wouldn't, so in your example, it wouldn't be me saying to an in-law or somebody else, hey, I've got whatever, I've got this ADU, you can buy it like it's a condo type of thing. That would, I think, would impact it, if you could do that, but I don't think you can, because it wouldn't meet the dimensional requirements, but Governor Healy wants to change those too, so.
I mean, I think at that point, we're gonna, we're at the potential of letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. If we start debating ADU laws that may or may not affect us 5 years down the road.
Correct, no, and that's why I said I think this is great. Again, I don't know if those numbers move the needle enough to even see an increase, but it's better than what it is. And I think that's our goal, is, it might not be perfect, and there is opportunity in the future years, because this still has to go through the state, and if they see a need, they might improve their laws, which then will allow us to take more action to make sure that the seniors are able to, stay in place.
I think this is a first step, and obviously, people after us may choose to do different things, but I think it's a good first step to try and at least help those who are, not doing well.
I do have a few more questions, I'm sorry. Is there a previous residency requirement? For example, my husband and I don't have parents that live in Auburn. So the way it reads like if I move my mother-in-law into my house, then and she is a part owner of my house.
No, so the previous domicile requirements in 40C still stand.
Okay.
And the, you know, the assessing staff can speak to that better than I can, but I think it's 5 years or 10 years at the address, et cetera.
Yeah.
Just is not exempt from that.
Okay. And so then my last question is, if there is a means to deal with or a tenant in common with their child through a life estate, I would prefer to take that out.
I don't think you can, it's state law. It's part of the overall state.
So, I mean, I think the life estate right now is one of the way, the end runs around the way to allow a child who co-owns the property, but to have to put it into a life estate. You know, I'll be honest with you, I don't like the fact that we're telling residents that want to see that their child who lives with them, their adult child, gets ownership of the property upon their passing. Let's be honest here. Cannot add their child to the deed to do that. Instead, you must go through this loophole and put it into a life estate. You know, I prefer seeing this type of language. And again, the legislature might not allow this one exemption. They can pick and choose what they allow us to do. But I think we should build in there the allowance for somebody who wants to pass on their property to their adult child who has lived there. Again, they have to meet all the same requirements in terms of living there 5 years, 10 years. It's not like they can move them in tomorrow and get this discount. You know, I think this is, you know, just as that senior who is living there and who has built their life there, that adult child has also built their life in Auburn as well. And I don't think we should exclude them from getting this benefit just because they want to pass the house on and they don't have the means to go to a lawyer and get a life estate and do those extra legal steps that I don't think we should be requiring.
Okay, I disagree, but that's fine. Is there a motion on this warrant article?
I would make a motion that we recommend the article.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. The second warrant article for the select board is to expand the small business tax benefit.
Yeah, so this is something I know I've talked about in the past, needing to expand it. And in multiple planning documents, you have had residents say they would like to have more mom and pop businesses in town. But the reality is most small businesses don't own their place of business. They have to rent. And in Auburn, the predominant way for a landlord to operate is a triple net lease, which means that every expense that is on that building is paid by that business owner or collection of business owners. That's a hell of a hill to climb when you're trying to open a business and keep a business, especially I know we talked about COVID tonight. If you were in a restaurant, you know, many restaurants closed for months on end. You know, the fact that any of them kind of survived, but we're even seeing now some of them in major metropolitan areas have never been able to recover from COVID. So if we want to do this, we need to expand that opportunity. Also, the state passed this in 1993, hasn't updated it. And in Auburn, a lot of our small businesses are located in congregate settings, which means every single person under the state regulation has to meet a very strict value as well as a very low number of employees. And I just don't think that that's helpful to our business community. I don't think we're going to achieve what the residents have expressed to us in the planning documents, and we're not giving help to a lot of the business owners who are struggling in town. So this, to me, is better than a single tax rate because it's targeted. It's looking at people and not treating a class of individuals all the same. There's a great difference between someone who's opening a craft store and someone who has a full liquor license. There's a great difference between someone who is a national chain, or you happen to be a franchisee and you're trying to open a local coffee shop. And I just think there's a lot of barriers, and I think this would also help, because this goes actually to the landlord, it doesn't go to the businesses. It would also give relief to those landlords who have been trying to hold on to their properties, and this might give them means to reinvest in their property, make them more marketable. And I know, talking to a few of them, that they struggle with that because they can't go up on their rents as much as the economy might dictate, but yet the small business owner, it is a huge barrier to them. They just can't afford it, so they're going to other places, or they're just not opening a business, which I don't think is good for anybody, any community, frankly. But
Yeah, I just want to add to that. So first, I want to apologize. There's a typo. It's actually Section 5I of Chapter 59, not Section 5L. That's my fault. I just want to point that out to everybody. I agree with everything Mr. Carpenter just said. In my mind, when I've met with the chamber twice now, this is one of the ways that I think the town can help support the businesses, regardless of whether you support going to a single tax rate or not. This is a direct way for us to move the needle for small businesses and for the landlords who are renting space to small businesses. And again, as Mr. Carpenter said, this is an area where the state passed something many years ago, and it was great at the time, and has failed to actually update it. The employee setting at 10 employees is their allowance. When they were handing money out during COVID, they set small businesses at 25 to 50 employees. So there's differences in their own legislation and their own approaches to how they're taking this. So they're realizing, by doing that, that they haven't updated this, and a small business is not 10 employees. When I think of small mom and pop restaurants that I go to Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings for breakfast, there are more than 10 employees there. But it's not a huge, operation. Also, certainly the $1 million in 1997 is certainly, has not grown either. And I think $5 million, again, looking at what they were giving out in their own loans, in their own other programs that they run, $5 million is more appropriate for that. And the last section that we're asking for, as Mr. Carpenter said, is that right now, if you own a strip mall, let's say, and in order for you to get this tax discount, every single business must meet this threshold. Every business must be under 10 employees and under $1 million. Or if this goes to under 25 employees or under $5 million. As we know, when we're looking at these properties, they tend to have a big chain anchor, and the rest are mom and pops, even if it's a bank. So right there, they're not qualified. So the thought is that if we can, allow it for them to get the benefit, if 50% of their units are rented to qualified businesses, then they can receive this tax discount. And what that does is that provides them the incentive to one, hold on to their property as they're struggling, but also to say, I'm going to support the town's goal to bring in mom and pops and not just bring in more chain restaurants or more chain businesses. So I think this is, again, trying to serve the type of things that we've been, up here saying we want to do, for the past several years.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, make a motion that we recommend this article regarding expanding the small business tax benefit.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Our third warrant article?
The third warrant article is, as the board knows, we discussed, I believe, last November during tax classification, the legislature passed the HEROES Act, which provides countless amounts of benefits to those who service members and veterans that have served our country. Everything from excise tax, benefits, et cetera. There's three that, in order for a municipality to offer, the local legislative body has to accept the law. So this is simply asking town meeting to accept the law so that we can offer these extra benefits to the veterans in the town. Again, to honor and recognize their service and to provide benefits for them. The first one is that is to allow real estate that is held that is the domicile of the person, but is owned by a trustee, a conservator, or other fiduciary for the person's benefit to count towards that tax benefit. The second is to adjust the annual amount to the cost of living, so tie it to the COLA, so it's not a locked amount. And the last, this is a really long paragraph, and I'm forgetting, sorry, it's getting late, and I'm out of coffee. But this last section is another one that the local legislation has to, again, the local legislature has to approve in order for us to take advantage of.
Are there any questions?
Chair, make a motion that we recommend a warrant article to expand veteran property tax abatement benefits.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we also, as a board, vote to sponsor the 3 articles. We said we're recommending them, and actually we should be sponsoring them.
Sure, sorry.
No, that's my fault. I started it.
Second.
Fair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. And then there is a DPW article that we need to add, right? Is that what that is? Okay.
Have that discussion, yes.
Okay, so our next item is a vote to open the warrant.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you for,
Good evening again. I didn't try this out before the meeting, so I don't know how well it's going to come up on the screen. Not great. Okay. See if I can. I'm not sure if that's really very visible, but the DPW was approached by the owner of this property. They have several drainage easements on the property. They're looking to develop it, and we were in the process of determining the best place for the relocation of the drainage easement. Currently, there's really not much drainage in that area. There's a one drainage pipe alongside. I'm just gonna.
Joanna, can you just identify where you're talking about?
So I'm gonna
what
try
street?
to use the cursor. I'm sorry, this is on Commonwealth Ave. So the property in question is 5 Commonwealth Ave. I don't know if you can see the cursor, but there's a pipe where I'm moving the cursor. So Commonwealth is a private roadway. It connects to,
Boyce and Rockland.
yes, and on the other side, it's, I'm sorry.
Stone, is that Stone? Yeah, Oakwood.
Oakwood. So there is some drainage on that the town accepted road Oakwood is draining into. There's a couple of catch basins. So they are draining out into this private property. So the town had a town meeting warrant in, I believe in 1976, to install that drainage and get easements for it. And I'm not really sure how these easements came into play, but the only reason for a drainage easement in this area would be for that drainage pipe. So we were in discussions with the property owner about that, the relocation of that easement. There's currently an easement that extends all the way out to the wetlands. There really isn't any reason for it. We've looked at, any possibilities. I think the only possibility for that easement might be just for access to this intermittent stream. We have other ways of accessing it, so we really don't need this drainage easement. So this easement would get dissolved, and the town would get this drainage easement and keep the drainage easement along Commonwealth Ave to maintain the infrastructure. I'm not sure if I could.
Because I'm almost thinking this came up during my planning board service at one point. Commonwealth Ave is unpaved, it's private. How many lots are we looking at that he is looking to develop?
I believe he's looking to develop this one lot.
Just one, okay.
I believe, and I'm not really familiar with what he's proposing because our discussions really were limited to the easement, but I think it might be a multifamily.
What benefit? Does this benefit the sewer department in any way? Accepting this and abandoning the other?
It cleans it up. There's a small portion of the pipe that isn't covered by the easement, so it basically just cleans it up.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, what kind of vote are you looking for here?
We are looking for a vote to add it to the warrant.
Okay, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we add this article to the, from the DPW Director to the annual town meeting warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I vote that we close the annual town.
Do we not have to approve, recommend, or?
No, we don't.
Oh,
That's
just-
at a later meeting.
Okay,
I had my wires crossed on that.
it's fair. Yeah.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we vote to close the annual town meeting warrant.
So if I may second for a discussion. I don't know if anyone has an objection, but I believe we're meeting, we have a fifth meeting. If we could keep this open for a week, again, just to open it and close it in one meeting and not allow other people an opportunity. I don't know if there's any negative impacts on that, but again, to open and close in one meeting, there may be other citizens petitions or something out there.
Madam Chair, if I might, the warrant has been open for a while.
Correct, and we just
Yeah.
had 4 changes. So if we had changes, who's to say no one else does? I'm just asking if we can hold it open
So-
till Monday.
I mean, I was just going to say that whether we meet Monday or not, we can set a date to close it again, just like we did previously, so we could keep it open till Monday or Friday, or, if we want to keep it open to provide additional opportunity for people to file something, that it doesn't require us to meet Monday to do that. We can simply just set a date to close it again.
If I may, Madam Chairman, the cutoff date was Friday. The reason we allowed this one easement to go through was because they came in on Friday, right after 1 o'clock. They came in on Friday, they didn't know that we closed at 1, so we opened it. And we also had the 3 items weeks before from the board for the warrant. My concern is that now we're going to start the clock rolling for additional warrant articles that are going to require signatures, and I think it just starts a whole new process that really was complete on Friday. So I will leave it up to you, but it does leave open the next few days of starting this process all over again.
So do we have everything in the foreseeable goal of the warrant in? So one of the things that I had saw highlighted and I had a question on because the wording wasn't, we had asked our town attorney to look at a possible moratorium and provide language for reasoning, et cetera, and there's a
Yes.
one-liner in there.
Through the chair, your vote tonight is to refer this to town council. That's all your vote is to refer to town council for the proper language and to make sure that it is written properly. I spoke to him last week when he came in for the ZBA, and he is finalizing a very lengthy letter to the board regarding the moratorium, so you'll be able to, at that point, make the changes that you want to the warrant article. There's a placeholder there for that specifically. And to answer your question, everything that we've worked on is on this warrant article. There's nothing outstanding. I just felt that we should open it for the gentleman who didn't know we closed at 1. And I know for a fact, because I was caught up in the emails, that he's been working on this for months. And I felt like it was the right thing to do to open the warrant article, the warrant for him, and allow his article to come through if he was able to work with DPW, and he did. So he met the requirements of that.
So I guess my thought on the moratorium issue, I want town council here. I don't want him sending me a letter. He can send a letter, but I want him here to be able to answer questions. And I think we need to, test the chair's patience and perhaps allow the public to ask a question or two, but we can take that as we may. But yeah, I would like council to be here to speak to this directly, and I do not want to see him read a letter off of a page. I want him to be versed in it and able to answer questions, not only from us, but if members of the public have questions, I want him to be able to be fully prepared to give us the information and be prepared if we have some oddball question to be able to answer that.
I can arrange that.
Madam Chair, I agree with Ms. Carpenter, and God knows I will have the oddball question or two. But my question is just simply on procedural. Is the wording here enough, or will we, when we get the language, can we amend it without having to reopen the warrant, insert the language, and then close the warrant again? Can we just simply amend the language?
Yes, because the warrant article is, the article in the warrant is specifically for a moratorium. So we can change the language, much like most of these. The language is going to change on these because we're sending it to council.
Yep.
We need to make sure that they're written appropriately, but in saying that, the articles that are citizens petitions will not be changed. Those are on this warrant based on how they were submitted to us, but all of ours will be changed to reflect the accurate language used in a warrant.
So I just want to make sure that the one other thing, since you just brought that up, in the municipalities that I've previously worked for and seen this and been involved with, typically the petitioner's name when it's a citizen's petition is listed, and this just says by citizen's petition. Is that going to change for town meeting when they get their actual booklet? It's going to say, this is the person who's sponsoring this, or is it just going to be a random anonymous citizen's petition?
It's a good question, and it's been a topic of conversation in our office. We asked Sharon, who's been here for probably longer than most of us, and she never did use the name, but we'll check and see, and if we can use the name, we will.
Past practice has been, it's been just citizens petition.
Madam Chair, back to the motion. I made the motion, and we have a second. Might I note that the Finance Committee has to approve the warrant also, and then it has to go to the printer, so we are on a time schedule here. So I think it's in our best interest to close the warrant tonight.
If I may, town meeting's not until May. We're not even at March yet. I don't know if time is really that big of a consideration. I asked for more time everyone, so you
Well-
guys are certainly more than willing to take that vote.
It has to get printed and go to the printer, and then it has to get mailed out to the town meeting members in a timely manner.
So,
Yeah, it's required by law that they get it 7 days ahead. So again, I mean, to Mr. Chambers' point, and I'm not necessarily, because I've been for years asking the same thing, and we always get the same, well, this one has to do it, this one has to do it. It's like, if we stuck to an annual town meeting and did not have the special town meeting in the fall, we'd be in a serious trouble, because this is the opportunity for the residents to petition their government, and we don't do a great job of advertising it. We don't even do a great job of advertising it internally to our boards, which has been a bone of contention for me personally, but we do have to be mindful of the schedule, obviously, and finance meets, so far they've been meeting every week, but we don't have anything before us right now, but I do think that we should have this conversation at another time and close the warrant tonight and let this move on its process, but then talk about it at a different time.
Can I just, town clerk would like to make a comment as well?
So I just wanted to let you guys know, town meeting members have to have the warrant a week before the town meeting. So we normally mail it the Friday before that, so you're looking April 25th is when we like to get it in the mail. That gives them 4 days before the week deadline. So that cuts you back. So I just wanted to, as you guys figure out times.
Still
So
also
from-
have to go through town council. It still has to go through the finance committee, and I would like to.
Looks like you have 4 votes, so you can certainly call it.
I just want to give my input as somebody who also needed extra time and did not realize the warrant was closing when it did, and I'm a board member, so that's partially on me, but if I was confused or missed it, I'm sure a resident did as well. We take votes right up until right before town meeting when we might want to change or change our recommendation. That doesn't impact the fact that the warrant is still published and mailed out to the town meeting members. So Finance Committee can continue on their way. They are talking budget right now. They're not talking this warrant. And they're going to be busy doing the department budgets for at least their next 2 or 3 meetings, at least. So I don't think it's going to impact finance at all. And again, if I needed time or I was confused, then who am I to say that another resident might not need similar time? And so, well, I don't think we should keep it open for weeks on end. I don't think there's harm in keeping it open till Friday at 1 o'clock.
So there is a motion and a second to close the town warrant. All those in favor?
Aye. You mean to close it tonight, correct? Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No.
I'd make a motion that we keep the warrant article open and that we make sure that we're advertising this on every digital billboard that we have as a static message so that people can see that we have this, that there are flyers in every public building, that this is open till Monday at 5 o'clock, because we close at 7, and it makes sense that we might need time to process that. So that's going to be my motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Opposed? The chair is a no as well. With that, the warrant will remain open until Monday at 5 PM. Yes. Okay, so we have no proclamations or recognitions. We do have a gift acceptance.
Going to ask any questions because the staff has been sitting here all night. Does anybody have any questions for staff based on the warrant? Just because if we're going to ask them to come, and keep up late, I think we should at least...
Lots of questions.
Well, we can recommend some tonight, right?
Ask questions tonight.
Ask questions.
Sure.
Madam Chair, may I ask the school committee, the school superintendent and the business manager to come up and explain their articles?
Thank you very much, and we certainly don't want to take any more of your time than necessary. The articles, several of them that you have before you, if I can just get to our page on there, are very typical articles that we submit each year. One for the Medicaid receipts, the interest on the Auburn High School gymnasium, the McKinney-Vento receipts, and the foster care transportation. So those are very typical. You see those from us each year. The one that is not is Article 16, to repurpose CIP funds, amending Article 4 of the annual meeting, to authorize $75,000 as a portion that was for a stage lift bathroom and a nurse bathroom upgrade toward our new math program for our students in K-8. We have been able to, this work will still get done, so the building will not suffer because of it. But as I think I've said to the committee before, our math programs are old. We can't get replacement materials for them any longer, and what we can get is very expensive, and the time is right for us to move to a new program. So making this choice to take a first step toward doing that.
So I just have a question. 3 of these articles are regarding reimbursements for expenses. What reimbursement rate are we seeing?
That will not come out for a while. I will have to call the Department of Education. So as the end of the year reports are done, they will let us know what that percentage is.
But is it 100%? Is it ever 100?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, the McKinney-Vento comes pretty close.
Okay.
For the homeless, yes, that does. The others, no. But yeah, it does vary year to year, based on our year-end report.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may ask a question. With respect to Article 16, I'm in 110% support of the new math curriculum and funding that. My concern is that the work at Bryn Mawr with respect to the stage lift, the staff bathroom, a nurse bathroom upgrade, and asbestos abatement especially. That was approved at town meeting in 2024. The work hasn't been done yet. Is this going to delay it even further, and when do we expect that work to be done?
Yeah, so I will tell you, we've had a changeover in our facility director. I don't have a timeline for when that's going to be done, but we are doing some major work there right now through our cafeteria, through our food service department, that is to some degree going to be connected to this. So I don't have any specifics on that right now. I will tell you that we're working very hard with him. We have some things that have lingered in our CIP that we're trying to get cleaned up and move forward. So we've had lots of meetings about that of late, so that we're much more current.
And is this work going to be bid out to be done by a contractor, or are we going to be trying to do it in-house as well?
We're not going to do it in-house.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, to the town, I know I've asked before about our SIP and what's outstanding, and the fact that we're allocating money or asking to reallocate money for a project that hasn't begun, that's 2 years old. I'd love to know, and I know I've asked this, projects that are more outstanding, what kind of funds are there, and can we reallocate those funds rather than taking from a current need that we're understanding, and anything that's outstanding from a project that may have had $2,000 here or $8,000 here, and is that being addressed and looked at, and would that be a better source of this rather than taking from a need that was just identified and approved at town meeting?
That's a very good question. We have started the process of analysis in regards to the CIP, and we've gone back several years, so we'll take a look at that and see if there's anything that we can reappropriate for this.
Just a heads up, that's something that I'm going to ask that we actually develop a report on, because I know anybody who's gone to town meeting for a day has heard the complaints about the repurposing. And we shouldn't just have money orphaned for years when we have unaddressed needs, and I don't think anybody sitting up here can say that there aren't unaddressed needs in our buildings. So if we can use that money that we've already asked the taxpayers, or we've already gone out and borrowed, so sitting for, in a bank account at the return of investment that we get for a savings account isn't exactly a great investment. But I agree with Mr. Chambers. We need to change how we've been doing things. I know it's a 5-year plan, and it's got to be a devil of a plan to come up with, because how do you prioritize when you have so many needs, and obviously you don't have nobody has the funds to do it. But that's going to be something that I'm going to ask at a future meeting, just so that we can address this, because it has been a long-standing issue, and why not address it? If we can benefit our departments, that's great.
And I will say, we are trying very hard to do that and getting a good understanding of what's out there and what's remaining. So we agree that that's a priority.
Big thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the warrant that we would like addressed by department?
Just have a question, probably best for Dr. Menard, with respect to zoning changes.
Hi.
I just want to confirm, so Article 17, accessory apartment standards, is this just bringing our zoning language in line with the new state requirements?
Correct.
The second is Article 18, with respect to the multifamily dwelling changes. What's behind these changes?
Some of the language is dated. There's been changes to the zoning bylaw past couple of years to bring us up to MBTA community requirements, and this language was kind of left off.
So it's just clean
It's
up.
got a buried in another part of the bylaw that we didn't see at the time. So it's basically it's dated language.
Okay, so it's just clean up language?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Menard? Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for departments?
Just the this question on Article 23, the establishment of a Board of Health revolving account for tobacco or any other act, anything relative thereto? So what's the backstory on creating this new revolving account? Who's going to have control of it? Who's going to be spending it? Where's the money coming from?
Amy will speak to that.
Hi, thank you, Board. The revolving account is being proposed to deposit tobacco violations that the Board of Health is receiving. So with the tobacco control laws that are in place right now, those funds, I believe, are just going back into the general fund. So I believe this was proposed to keep those funds at the Board of Health level to then be able to be utilized by the Board of Health for various projects that they have.
So the Board of Health will have the jurisdiction over controlling the funds and determining how they're spent?
Yes, I believe so.
What's the amount right now? Obviously, putting them in the revolving fund takes them out of the general fund, and as we just heard, there's budget concerns, budget crunch, and anything that comes out of the general fund has an impact on the total town budget. So do we have like a ballpark on how much we're talking?
So for the tobacco violations, there is a scale for a first violation, a second violation, a third violation. So those violations can be anywhere starting at $1,000 to $2,000 and increasing with additional violations. I know at the most recent Board of Health meeting, I believe they were enforcing violations at 3 different establishments for upwards of $3,000.
So scale-wise, I think I probably have a better thought of our businesses than that they'd be breaking the law and not breaking the law. But are we talking like $30,000? Are we talking $300,000?
We're talking much smaller amounts, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
If I may follow up on that. So what would you spend it on tobacco education, or is it just whatever the department feels?
I believe it would be going towards tobacco education and other educational projects related to that.
And where does the funding for those educational projects currently come from?
Right now, I believe that might just be coming out of the regular budget. There is support through a regional tobacco control agent that the town depends on significantly to provide education to the businesses in town. So I think this would give the town more opportunities to do that at their own level versus relying on the regional agent.
I do have a question, if everybody else is done. Do any of these violations raise to the level of going to court in the use of council services? Or even if you don't go to court, do you need to seek advice from council at any time in the course of this process?
I'd say there could be the potential for that for cases with repeat offenders that have reached maybe like the max violation level, and depending on their compliance.
Yes, I'm concerned because we're talking about small dollars, and I really do think that it's probably best that this stay in the general fund for the amount of money that we're talking about, but that's for another night.
Are there any additional questions?
Just a comment. I know we've had discussions before about reducing the amount of accounts that we had. So if there isn't a real need for adding an additional revolving account, I'd like to see the true need before agreeing to that.
You know, we've got an awful lot of money for opioid education. I would think that we should be looking at how we can better use that to discuss addiction of any, which tobacco is an addictive substance. So I would think we should be able to try to include that in some of our education. And we do receive and have received a considerable amount of money from the tobacco, well, not the tobacco, the opioid settlement. But again, that's for another night.
Can I just ask one more question about Article 21? In terms of the unlicensed dogs or dog license late charge, moving it up by a month, the reasoning for that?
So that's an article that's being sponsored both by Inspectional Services and the Town Clerk's Office. We've had a lot of issues over the years with, frankly, some confusion between the timeframes. So right now, the licensing period is a 3-month period. So it opens beginning January 1st, closes March 31st. Right now, late fees don't start to accrue for our residents until May 1st. So a lot of times we have residents that believe their dog licenses aren't actually late until that late fee applies. Right now, the dog license is one of the only fees for the town that has a 3-month window to pay, where as soon as you hit the deadline date for that, we don't have interest rates that are accruing. We just have the singular late fee that's applied to that year. So we're hoping to clear up some confusion, but also make things a little more efficient for the town clerk's office and inspectional services, because we do have an obligation to enforce the MGL. So the Massachusetts general law that dog licensing falls under. And when we push those late fees back and with the confusion with residents, we haven't felt comfortable moving on any sort of enforcement action, which usually starts with education first, until the later half of the year. So that really cuts a window for us to be able to start reaching out to residents to try to get compliance with that.
So we're removing sort of the 1-month leeway window that currently exists.
So right now, there is a 1-month period between when the licensing period ends and when the late fees kick in. But again, the licensing window is still a 3-month window, and we're not looking to change that.
It's just, it's a little confusing because when people get their dog license, it states on it that it expires March 31st. But yet, a lot of people won't come in that know that they have that grace period until the end of April. Their dog license has already been expired for a month. So we're just trying to get rid of the confusion.
So I guess my question is, what is the harm to the community that there is this lag in licensing?
trying to get rid of confusion. There's a lot of people that come in that are confused about why their license says that it's expired, but then yet we don't accept late fees until the beginning of May. They want to know why their license isn't good until the beginning of May.
So the library just went fine-free. So I think this is more of a, we're not doing a good enough job explaining to the residents what the obligations are, rather than confusion on their part. We need to look at the communication we're giving to them and be more clear and say, yes, you have this grace period. However, your dog isn't licensed in that period of time. But I'm not hearing any overwhelming reason why this is a need or a danger to the community or an interest that the community has. So again, this is one of these ones that for another night, I probably won't support because, again, I think we need to do a better job of communicating with the residents what it is that we need and expect. I don't think it's confusion. I think we're just not being clear enough to them. So, but anyways, that's for another night.
Through the chair, I would just like to clarify that we do have it on the website. We do have it on the dog license application. We do include it in our social media posts, in our outreach by email to our residents to remind them about the dog licenses. We have done work over the years to try to bring down costs to our residents. We did have on the May 2017 town meeting warrant to accept a no cost for residents over 70 dog licensing fee, one per household. So we've done a lot of community work and outreach to try to help people with that. And this is another thing where we're just trying to clear up the confusion. It's not going to affect residents that are licensing on time. They won't have any additional fees applied to them. It will give us more time frame to essentially educate non-compliance dog owners in town, which can have a negative impact on the community if people aren't in compliant with our dog licensing regulations as it applies to licensing and rabies, which has to come along with the license that's applied. So it does have a greater impact on the community.
Yeah, and our website is a nightmare to find information on it. So I'm not saying that you're not doing things. I'm just saying, as someone who does this and looks for information on my own employer's website and thinks it's insufficient by a yard or several miles, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's confusing. In fact, I think for myself, every single bill that this town or any town issues should have a grace period. Every other business does that. We're the only one that insists that on day one, and we're also the one that is also the latest to pay things. We ask businesses to do things for us, and yet we do, but that's more of a philosophical issue, for me anyways.
Can I ask a question? Does the Mass General Law dictate when you have to have your dog licensed?
So the Mass General Law prior to 2012 did have the licensing period of January 1st through March 31st. There was an act in 2012 that gave the towns the ability to set the licensing period. The licensing time frame has been part of our bylaws prior to 2012. So we had already followed the guidelines of January 1st through March 31st. And have continued with that licensing period that was included in the MGL. So now, with the Act of 2012, it gives the towns the ability to set the licensing period, but this is pretty standard in almost every community that you're looking at a 3-month window that gives people time to apply for their license on time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions related to the warrant?
Yes, I'm sorry, I might ask Dr. Menard to come back up, please. I have a question regarding Regional Housing Coordinator Services and the funds that are requested for that. Article 22.
Hi, thanks. So this is something that the town's paid for the last couple of years. It is through CMRPC. We share this individual with 5 other communities. Basically, it's to assist us with housing issues, particularly around 40B, and now that we have a housing production plan that's been certified last year to help us work towards the actions and goals in that housing production plan.
All right, thank you.
Before we go, can I just ask Dr. Menard, what exactly is this person doing for the town?
Currently, that position is vacant, so there's nobody doing anything at this moment. The individual we had resigned a couple months ago, so CMRPC has been actively searching for a new individual. One of the things I can tell you in the future we'd like them to do, aside from the house working on the housing production plan, is assisting the 40B LAP work group that has been formed a couple months ago to help us draft guidelines to work around the 40B and the LIPs. And there'll be other future issues to work on that we may not know at this time.
What's the timeline on that LIP working group? If this position's been empty and we don't know when they're filling it, could that group be done before this person even comes in?
It's possible. I don't know when the hiring will happen.
We have met several times as a group. We do have somewhat of a framework that we're working towards at this moment.
If I may, I'm sorry, I lost the article.
22.
Yep. So even with our current 40B situation, we do have to make sure we're staying up to date with the production and that when these get built and developed, they'll roll off. Will this person help identify those things? Like, I know the role's vacant currently, but this is for 20, so this hasn't been approved yet, so we still have time to hire, or they do, to do that. But do you have a list of goals that you are hoping to utilize this person for?
There would be mainly in the housing production plan. I would have to go back and reference it. It's been several months since I've really looked at it, but it's to education's a big one. We had the 40B consultant that we contracted with for the Perry Place project. If we didn't have a consultant, this individual with CMRPC would be the one doing some education outreach. That's always a big aspect of these 40B projects. The work group, as I mentioned, would be helpful in just housing in general is a need. It's not just 40B, it's single families, it's duplexes. How can Auburn address the needs of the community? And this individual would be somebody that's doing it on a regular basis.
I would just caution, again, if we're having someone that's going to consult on 40B that we're paying for, that could impair our ability to ask the developer to pay for those services in the future. So I would hazard not to have them help with mitigation on that when you can get outside funding from a developer to assist on that aspect. Because I know if you have it and you get using it, it's not allowed for us to impose fees on a developer that we wouldn't normally do. So if you're asking for consulting from this person on 40B, I would back up.
I guess I'm not quite following the train of thought. The 40B consultant we have is not paid for by the town, that's paid for by Mass Housing.
Correct.
And this individual would be paid for by the town, but it wouldn't be paid for by a developer. It would be
Correct, but
working on a development project.
if this person who, if approved, is paid by the town, that could limit your ability to ask the developer to pay for people. That's my concern with, when you brought that up. I wasn't a concern until you mentioned it. Again, it's like consulting. We can't ask for consultants that we don't normally do. If we have internal reviews of things, it's on the town to continue with internal reviews up to a point. So I just want to make sure that this person is helping with housing production and not necessarily 40B.
If I may speak on that, if you remember a while back, we had someone come in from CMRPC and gave us an update. That is the person that we're talking about, and it's a shared person we can literally use them for anything related to housing that we want. They wouldn't be negotiating regarding an LIP or anything. That's still going to stay within us and the group that we have with Dan Carpenter and trying to work that out is going to work out the logistics of what, what our responsibilities are individually and as a town. And this person wouldn't be doing the negotiating per se, but maybe more of an education thing, and can also work with us and our departments on other housing challenges that we have. But I understand your frame of mind and what you're thinking, but we would not allow that person to do that.
So I guess I would ask to see what we plan to utilize that person for, because that's a decent sum of money for someone who's part-time, but like the value that $18,000 could bring us.
Sure, not a problem, not a problem at all.
Right,
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, so that's sort of the basis for my inquiry, is that $18,000, it's not a large amount of money, but it's not a small amount of money. And we know that our zoning board of appeals facing additional 40B is going to need additional support. And the consultant that we were able to get, who's helping with Perry Place, is not going to be there forever. That money's going to run out, and we have Athens Road and others coming online. So my question was, since this is a general fund revenue source, did it make more sense to look to, since this person is vacant, position is vacant, is to divert those funds to the town hiring somebody as a consultant for our ZBA, rather than going through and sharing somebody with X amount of towns with divided attention from the CMRPC? That's just the basis on why I asked the question that I asked. It's not that I don't see the need, I just want to make sure that we're getting our dollars worth when it comes to supporting our ZBA specifically, as they are facing more and more pressures for 40Bs.
And I think it could benefit the other land use boards as well. They have needs as well. But
May I ask, do we have a contract with CMRP to participate in this plan with this consultant?
We've had one in the past for the past couple of years. We have to sign a new one pretty much each year, so.
I just ask, assuming that we have an existing contract with them right now, and we had set aside funds, and the position's been vacant for unknown amount of time, I don't, whether it's a couple months, have we been paying them for that, or is that money not coming out? Or, is that money staying in our general fund and being used by the department to support our regulatory boards for housing purposes, since they have not filled the position?
We're meeting with the CMRPC, I think it's in a week or two, and that's one of the questions, is how the funds, both for this year that we didn't have any service, in the coming year, if the funds are approved at town meeting, how will that affect if there's a vacancy? So we're going to be talking about that.
We've already paid the full amount that we owe.
I'd have to look into it. I did not come prepared to talk about this subject.
Are there any additional questions?
no, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other additional warrant articles?
Yeah, I have a question about Article 35, the establishment of the new cemetery. And do we have someone here
There's
to
someone
speak
here.
about it?
Citizen petition.
So-
Another citizen petition? No? Okay.
It's
So
citizen.
it did go through a bunch of boards, if
Yes.
you've watched them. And I do think this is required by the bylaw that they come, but the other boards did vote to approve to move forward, correct?
If I may, through the chair, it has gone through all the boards and it has been approved except the Board of Health. So this is on the warrant, but the owner of the property and Ty and Bond, who I spoke to, understand that they need to get through the Board of Health to ensure that this stays on for a town meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just have going back to the whole citizen petition thing, when these actually come before us, when we're going to take recommendations, how are we going to know who the petitioner is to ask them questions? Because, I have some questions here that were submitted by citizen petition that I'd like to get a better understanding of their reasoning behind them and what we're trying to do. But if they're anonymous, how are we going to call them before us and ask them these questions?
So for the next meeting, why don't we make this a board item, I believe we control the warrant. We can certainly change that, subject to correction from somebody who knows more about it than me, but I believe the warrant is, we own the warrant. Where things are, when it opens, when it closes, that's our responsibility. So I don't see why we can't just say, instead of citizens petition, the person needs to be identified and be done with it. But if the chair doesn't mind adding that to the next agenda.
Certainly. Are there any additional questions as it stands right now?
I don't. I just have one request that we ask town administration, if it hasn't already been done, that the project update for Camp Gleason be put on the website or page and on whoever else's
Not a
page we
problem.
can find.
Of course.
We still have staff here. Is there any appetite to move up budget amendments? I imagine that is what they are still here for.
Why don't we ask if anybody has any questions, and then we can, of the staff. I personally don't have any questions for them, so.
Okay. All right, so then we will continue on with 8H, gift acceptance.
Oh, I was in favor of moving it up.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
I thought you meant you would, I'm sorry.
No, I had questions for them, so I
misunderstood.
he asked if anyone had any questions.
Oh, gotcha, I misunderstood. I thought. I
Can
assumed-
I make a motion to move up item 9A?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. Hand this to you, town manager item.
Thank you. Through the chair, there have been a couple of changes to our budget from the initial request that we had forwarded you. One was that we added an assistant treasurer collector position, and the funds were derived from a surplus balance that we had of $29,000. And also, I had called DPW and asked for them to allow me to withdraw $17,000 from the streets because the DOT notified us that they would be increasing our streets for Chapter 90. So I spoke to her, and because the situation has turned into a dire need, I had asked if we could put those two amounts together, which equate to approximately an October 20th start date for this particular position. So that warrants a change in both finance and the Department of Public Works. And the school department has submitted an updated budget as well, and they're here to discuss that if you have any questions.
Board members have any questions?
So I just have a question regarding the reduction from streets to this. I understand the need, I support the need. My concern is that, well, the governor provided that language. She is not the first governor to put in a Chapter 90 amendment to increase the amount, and the legislature rejected it. So what is the impact that if this does not happen, what's the impact to our streets program going to be, knowing that we removed this money out of it, and our Chapter 90 did not get increased as we were hoping?
We could go to finance, I believe, and do a transfer back. Is that possible? Can you answer? So basically, if we do not move forward with this hire, we would still have the $29,000 available from the surplus that we had. We'd just have to have a later start date. But the $17,000 that we moved from DPW, could that be transferred back into DPW? I'm just checking with the chief financial officer.
I'm not suggesting that we move it back. I think there's a clear need in the department.
No, I'm just saying in that situation where the governor comes forward and changes her mind on our appropriation, because I had thought that out and understanding that that's a possibility, that's why we were doing a delayed hire, but it would be it would be even longer. Because it would be less the $17,000.
Right, and what I'm saying is, I think they need the person, and I support moving that money for that purpose. I'm just wondering, is that going to cost us, one road, a half a road? Like, what's just the impact? So we can explain it to the residents that $17,000 is needed for this purpose in the Treasury, and it's going to be a quarter of a road, depending on the price, and it's well worth it to give the service needed to the residents who are coming into the Treasury office.
Joanna?
Unfortunately, $17,000 does not give us a lot in terms of roadway, so it's a minimal impact.
Good question, though.
I know that, and that I knew the answer, and I wanted that, just stated publicly that it is a minimum impact, that it is not like some have said where we are depriving our roads and going to remove X amount of roads from the program. 17,000 is minimal, and this will make a big difference in the level of service that we're providing in our treasurer's office. So I just want to put that on the record.
If I may, I didn't hear what position was being added.
It is assistant treasurer collector, so we have one now. I do believe the department might be making an assistant treasurer and assistant collector, is that correct?
That's correct.
So is it a promotion or it's a new position?
It's a new position.
Are there any other questions?
I mean, I will say, I'm one that gets concerned because I know we've put additional funding into the roads and sidewalks and those programs. So seeing any money come out, even if it's minimal, I don't know if we're getting the value that the residents expect, and that's something I always talk about, is the roads need to be better. The sidewalk program needs to be funded, and, the fact that we're going there to take money, and it may be minimal, I just don't know if there's somewhere else that could do, or I think the impact to our road program needs to be improved. We need funding for it so it can get done. We've had the DPW director say that the cost for all the repairs is continuing to skyrocket. So even though $17,000 isn't going to move the needle, anytime we're not funding it enough, it's easy for the residents to see we're not doing the right thing by the roads. So there's my statement. Thank you.
So,
Sorry.
I just have a question on the school department budget.
Okay.
So it looks like the department request and the town manager's request is now the same amount. I'm just wondering, did you meet us or did we meet you? And if we met you, great. If you met us, where did it get cut out of?
Yeah, I think we met you.
Okay. What did we lose?
We're going to lose 2 positions, actually a total of 4. 2 positions are not being filled. We have 1 person who's going to be out on leave. We're not going to fill the position. A second who resigned, and that position won't be filled. And then 2 additional that we have in right now as placeholders, waiting on some enrollment, right? So I don't know if you remember, but we've always had 4 kindergartens at both PAC and Bryn Mawr. This year, we only have 3 at Bryn Mawr, and that was based on our kindergarten enrollment. So we're trying to make a big push to see how many registrations we can get to get an idea about that. But even at that, we now have a small kindergarten class that will become a small first grade class. As of right now, right, we kind of wait and see our enrollment. So those 2 positions are kind of in a holding pattern because we want to make those cuts in the place that's going to have the least impact on our kids. So that's why they're kind of really not determined yet.
Okay, so they are classroom level cuts, not
They are classroom
administrator
teachers.
level cuts.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Okay. So, I think we're all set with departments. Does anybody have any additional questions for departments?
Well, a lot, but not that it's on the agenda.
Fair. I'm going to keep them off. No, I'm just kidding.
Run now.
So we are moving back to 8H, which is gift acceptances. In our packet, there's gift acceptance.
Gotta find it.
For DPW, for Recreation and Culture, from Central One Federal Credit Union, for $1,000 for the summer concert season.
So can I make a motion that we accept is it $1,500 or $1,000?
$1,000.
$1,000 from Central One Federal Credit Union to be utilized for the summer concert, June 26, 2025, and that town administration prepare a letter for your signature offering. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. We will hold on 8J because we are leaving the warrant open for another week. And we do need to vote on a potential March 31st meeting. It sounds like it is going to be a yes, so we can close the warrant. I don't know if there is any other business that will come up, but I will
I
certainly.
think we just voted to close it on that date. I don't know if we need a meeting. I think that was a lot of the discussion.
Well, we would need the vote to transmit it to town council at that point.
Okay.
And when do we make recommendations on the articles?
Yeah, I believe that comes shortly before town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in April. All right, thank you.
Can I also ask, it has been some time since we have had a department update, a department individual come in, update us on what's going on in their department, and allow us to get an understanding of what's going on, ask any questions we have, if we can do a department update as part of this agenda as well.
As Monday, that it would probably have to be a very informal. I feel like a week is not a very much time for a department to prepare.
So,
if I may, through the chair, I think the intention was always to be informal and have a conversation and let us know what's going on. I don't think the intention was ever large PowerPoints and to go through every single department, but hit on a few things, some maybe industry trends or something that's affecting what's going on, and some things that, may be coming up, or, sometimes we have turnover and we don't always hear about it, but hey, you know what, we're seeing people leave for different positions, or I think we had a couple department people get promoted. Like, that's nice to know, hey, we've got some people that have been developing, going through some training, and, recognize them there, so again, I'm
Sure.
not looking for.
I'm concerned that a week is like a short time to,
I mean, my concern is we haven't had one in a while, and we had talked about them being more frequent, but also, to Mr. Chambers' point, I'm not looking for an entire update from the entire DPW department, but maybe their sewer department can come in and just give us an update, or I'm not looking for an entire DDIS update, but maybe economic development can come in and give us an update, or the health director or person that handles health, the Board of Health issues, can come in and give us a small update. Just something to sort of get back into that flow. And again, it doesn't have to be, an entire department, just a small aspect of it. Because honestly, I think we digest it better when it's in smaller bites as well. I mean, DDIS is a huge department, and when she gave her update, or DPW gave her update, I couldn't ask questions because it was in a million different locations.
If I may, through the chair, that is why I had Recreation come tonight. That is why I had the DPW come tonight for Camp Gleason. And I would like to continue to do that. I'm sure I can grab one or two departments that can give updates on certain areas of interest in their departments for Monday night. I don't have any problem with that. But what I'd like to do is do it a little bit more often so it's not as big. The big ones is just so much information, and it's almost difficult to ask questions or to absorb it all. But I think it's very important for town employees to talk to you about their initiatives and challenges and things that they're dealing with, so that you know what they're doing. So I don't have any problem bringing one or two in Monday, and I'm not sure who they'll be, but I'll see who's ready. Sewer is a good one. I don't think we've seen them at all yet. So I did see him here tonight, but
Yeah.
not a problem.
sure. So we do have to vote for the March 31st meeting. Is there a motion?
So I'll make a motion that we meet on March 31st at 6:30 PM.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is yes as well. We have no table items. We have no member items. We have no second public comment. There are no meeting minutes in our packets. We do need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair is a yes as well. We are adjourned.